How you doing? Oh, yeah. Nothing like a Monday. Fade to black. Bespoke radio for the masses. That's right. Today's Monday, November 17th, 318 days into the new year. We are live from the JP Motorsports Studios right here, Burbank, California. For KJCR and the Dark Matter Radio Network, I am your oh-so-humble host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking? All right, big salute to the proud men and women in uniform all around the world fighting the good fight for us. Without them, there is no me, there is no you, there is no us, and there is no Twitter right now. Think about it. Ted Cruz. Podcast all updated. Go subscribe. $2. I want my $2. As the newspaper comes crashing through the garage door glass. 2 points to the person that makes that connection right now, first in Twitter. Faders.org. Taken over. There's almost no use for JimmyChurchRadio.com. We're going to put that baby to pasture. Yeah, we broke a story today. Yes, we did. I'll get to that in a second. The mayhem's about to start. Today, actor Danny DeVito, 70 years old. Director Martin Scorsese, 72 years old. Our dead guy's birthday today is actor Rock Hudson. Born in 1925, died in 1985 of AIDS at the age of 59. Let's get Twitter fired up. Let's do this. Oh, I can't forget. Happy birthday, Cortana. Empress Cortana. 29 years old. There you go. Happy birthday, Empress. What is Danny DeVito's best movie? Thought about that today. You know, we start off the show every day with something like this. And what is his best movie? Is it his first one? One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? Or Get Shorty? You know how my mind works. Follow us on Twitter right now at JChurchRadio. Mark Davich. You're a smart man, Mark. Smart man. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Hashtag DMRadioNet. Come hang out in the sandbox. It will be out of control tonight like it is every single night. Everybody's friendly. Everybody's cool. We all get along in the sandbox. It's really funny to watch somebody come in and just try to derail the sandbox. They last about one tweet. It just doesn't work that way. This show is a bright ray of sunshine. That's what it is. It's a bright ray of sunshine. No negativity here. And tonight, we have Jay Weidner back with us. Jay is also a bright ray of sunshine. Can't wait to get Jay. Oh, man. Tomorrow night, Reverend Michael Carter will be with us. E.T. and the Bible. And you know the good Reverend from Ancient Astronauts? Great guy, contactee. Tomorrow night, Reverend Michael Carter, E.T. and the Bible. And Wednesday, Dennis Stone, America's Stonehenge. How is that for a week on the show? Can't wait. All leading up to what? Fader night. Yes. I'm going to open up the lines tonight with Jay. We have to. We have to. The last show that we had with Jay, and I'll say this, you always want a good show. You always want to present and have everybody learn something, and that's what I'm here to do, to learn right along with you and just go on a journey. And Jay just slayed the dragon that night. We had so much fun. And tonight, it's going to be a repeat performance. I cannot wait to get Jay on the show. He has got a firm grip on research. He's got some breaking stuff on the Great Cross of Hendaye. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to go back down that journey. Falconelli, René Le Chateau, all the ties, what the Great Cross of Hendaye is, alchemy, archons. It's going to be one of those shows tonight. And probably no religion or politics with Jay. And he's epic. And that's from Liam. Yes, that's exactly right. Epic, is that the right word? When talking about Jay, epic? Epic? Is that the right definition of epic? Could be. Could be. Email throughout the show, jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. You can also go over to the contact page on the website where we use non-NSA specially encrypted servers. Just make it good. Get it past the producers here. Get it into here. If you want to tweet me a question to the guest or to myself, you can go hashtag F and the number 2 BQ, Fade to Black Questions, hashtag F2BQ, and that's right next to me here in the studio. I will see that all night long. Let's get to some email. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. All right. Email from Walter, of all people. And look, Walter is in the sandbox tonight. Coinky dink. He says, I've been watching some of the newer Marshall Masters video interviews, and he seems to be a great guest to have on the show concerning Planet X. In his newer interviews, he talks about how the Planet X system may be becoming visible soon, as it shows its presence in a big way as it comes out from behind the sun in early 2016. Walter, okay, you know what? I'm going to reach out to Marshall. I've been reticent to do that. I've been waiting for some of this stuff from Marshall to happen for years. We'll see. I'll talk to Marshall, and we'll see if we can make it happen for you. All right. Email from Ben Miller. As you know, I get 10 a day. This one is, the comet signals are freaky. My translation is, and I'm quoting here, help me, I'm inside this big rock thing and my cable is on the blink. I want out now. That's from Ben Miller. Hey, did you see over the weekend everybody was matching it up? Fly to the Bumblebee. I think they did a couple Judas Priest tunes. No, Liam, we did not see Interstellar. We planned on it and we got sidetracked. And I know Wowo's listening right now. Oh, that's right. We meant to go. We did. We meant to go see it. We got sidetracked this weekend. Had a good weekend, though. All right. The big news. Yes. So everybody can go and check this out right now. I was contacted by a gentleman named Ed, who is in possession of a piece from the Roswell wreckage from 1947. He sent me the package. I got a bunch of high-res images. I got electron microscope images. I got some analysis of the composition. I got all of that and a copy of the report of the analysis of the composition. It is certainly interesting. It is interesting looking. I'm not sure what I'm looking at, but if you're looking at something ET-ish, You're not going to know what you're looking at, are you? So, nonetheless, we did the press release today. It went out on Twitter, Facebook, the website, and it is now out there. I'm asking for everybody to take a look. Is it anything that you have seen? Are you in contact with anybody that has something from Roswell that they're sitting on that this may look familiar to either you or somebody else? We want to know. There are a couple of symbols etched in this too as well. Not disclosing a whole lot at this point because I want to hear back from everybody on what they think. I don't want to give away too much, but it has been handed down since 1947. It was in the possession of Ed for the last 15 years. I think I have that right, 15 years. And there you go. It's interesting. I think, yes, I'm looking at everybody's comments here. It is an amazing piece. I don't know what it is. I don't. I'm only going off of the information that I have. It could be some serious stuff here. So this, we're going to release it slowly. Okay, before I just pump everything out there. I just want feedback from everybody else. This is a wide-reaching show. I'll put a video together over the next couple of days. We'll get that up on YouTube, and it's going to go far and wide. And I just want comments from everybody. If it is terrestrial, if it's from here, then somebody's going to identify it, and we'll know. That's all I ask. If nobody out there, engineers, mechanics, anybody, if you can't identify the piece, then because it's obviously machined. And that is obvious. Its composition is nearly 100% silica glass. It looks metallic. So that is strange in itself. So we have everything. We've got some really, really cool electron microscope analysis too as well. So there it is. It's out there. I want everybody to take a look. You can go over to jimmychurchradio.com right now on the homepage. We have 3 images presented there. Those images that you look at don't give our images justice. We have extreme high-res images, but I don't want those images to get out and then get spread around the net and have it uncontrolled. So what you're looking at is something that I just want people to look at and figure it out. And that is the intention. Which leads me to this email I got today from Mike. Mike says I'm reading this directly. I am a good friend of Ed, and I have seen and held the object. I wanted to mention that there are light carvings on the machined-looking edge. One is a triangle for sure. Not sure about the others. It looks heavy, but weighs nothing. Just wanted to throw a few comments out. Thank you. That's from Mike. We are on the brink of something here. So let's just, I want everybody to take a look at it. Go to jimmychurchradio.com, look at the images, and just let us know if it is something from here and you know what it is, and we can match it up or not. It could be some serious cool stuff. So that's it. Come back with the news, bottom of the hour. You know the drill. Jay Weidner will be with us. Tomorrow, Reverend Michael Carter, E.T. in the Bible. Wednesday, Dennis Stone, America's Stonehenge. And then, of course, Thursday, Vader Night. Shoot me an email to jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Follow us on Twitter @jchurchradio. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses, only on the Dark Matter Radio Network. I will be back right after this. Stay with us.
listening to Jimmy Church Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, you have tuned into the latest phenomenon in late-night talk radio, Fade to Black, starring the inimitable Jimmy Church, showcasing his continuing quest and pursuit of knowledge of the strange and paranormal. Sit back, open your mind, and let's get cracking.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I got to tell you, it was a relief. National tax experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. Doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil three-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. Or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com
on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
Yeah. Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. What does that mean? Only on the Dark Matter Radio Network. That's what that means. Follow us right now on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Hashtag DMRadioNet. That's what you want to do. What happened to Ebola? Well, it's back in the news. A doctor who spent time treating Ebola patients in West Africa died from the virus Monday in Nebraska. Dr. Martin Salia, who contracted Ebola in Sierra Leone, that is the second death, the second victim of Ebola in the United States. Is it going to come back? Are we going to go through this again with the media? 2 deaths. I wonder how many deaths from the flu last year? I don't know. I'm thinking out loud here. From the flu. How about from bacon? How many deaths from bacon last year? Senator Ted Cruz, who argued net neutrality is like Obamacare for the internet, doesn't understand the issue, according to Al Franken. Senator Al Franken. Franken suggested Sunday on CNN's State of the Union that the analogy makes no sense, which is what I said. I'm agreeing with Franken here. And said that Cruz, a Republican from Texas, doesn't know what he's talking about. Got a quote here from Franken. He says, Obamacare was a government program that fixed something, that changed things. This is about reclassifying something so it stays the same, referring to net neutrality. This would keep things exactly the same that they've been to prevent fast lanes. That's right. And that is something the Republicans don't want. This is not a political show, but this is a show on the internet. The Rosetta spacecraft, the Philae lander, not the Rosetta, the Rosetta spacecraft's Philae lander has gone silent. Yep, it landed in a shadow and can't recharge its batteries. Some brainiac at ESA, I don't know, It only had a 48-hour charge. And now this is the thing. When I first read that, when they first launched it, I read that and I thought, this is something that's going to go painfully wrong really quick. A 48-hour charge. They are counting on a free fall drop, and it's just going to land somewhere. And you know what? It landed in the shadow of a hill, and now it can't recharge its batteries. That's it. Now, we spent how many years designing this spacecraft? How many people? How much money? Somebody thought it was a good idea that we go out there, probably because the comet was singing a song. And we send out a space with batteries, with a 48-hour charge. Does that even make sense to you? It doesn't make any sense. A little nuclear reactor the size of a pack of cigarettes, couldn't you have done that? 48-hour charge. And now they won't be talking about that on the news anymore. We'll see. We'll see if it fires back up. Some miracle. Something shifts. Maybe E.T. will crawl out of the hole there that's playing the violins and move it for us. Give it a little nudge. Put it in the sunlight so it can get a suntan. Bono from U2. Here's a quote. Let's just do this. This is a quote from the band. I'm quoting here. It looks like we will have to do our Tonight Show residency another time. We're one man down. Bono has injured his arm in a cycling spill in Central Park and requires some surgery to repair it. End quote. Reps for the band could not be immediately reached for comment, but they went on to say, we're sure that he'll make a full recovery soon. Much thanks to Jimmy Fallon and everyone on the show for their understanding. And this comes after a rear hatch flew off of their private plane from Dublin to Berlin. But do you remember growing up when you were outside riding your bike and you had a spill? Nothing happened. You could have broken your arm. Life went on. How do you fall off a bike in Central Park and wind up needing surgery? Bono. I just can't believe it. I'm serious. Do you remember going out, riding your bike, building all the guys listening to this show, maybe some women too. You remember the drill, you and you guys, you're out there at summer vacation and you're building a ramp out in the street in front of your house and you guys are marking chalk marks on the who can jump the farthest, biting it, crashing, bending your tires, scrapes all over your face, your arms, your knees, your back, and then you go home at night. Don't say anything to your parents because you don't want to get in trouble. And you lie there in pain at night, lying in bed. Remember that? Just scraped up and down, probably fractured. But it didn't matter. And then what did you do the very next day? You went back out, put the ramp back up, and started jumping again. Fall off a bike in Central Park and you got to cancel the Tonight Show. Do it in a sling, man. Go get your opera. How do you fall off a bike in Central Park? Oh, you got to love it. You just got to love it. Bono's a cool guy. I hate saying stuff like this, but I work for a company that we supplied U2 with some amplifiers, and specifically Adam Clayton, his bass amps. The amps are called Ashdown. I work for Ashdown. And so I was able to, on a few occasions, when U2 was over here touring or playing shows, doing whatever, I got to hang out with the band. And it was so cool. And I'll say this, Bono one-on-one is one of the most down dudes you could ever meet. A very, very cool guy. Hey, whoa. Where are my Bono sunglasses that he gave me? I got to take a picture of those. We'll post it. And but anyway, he's a down guy. I can't believe that a bike accident kept him off of the Tonight Show. I just doesn't make sense. I don't know if there's a conspiracy, but there you go. All right. Getting ready here. Jay Weidner at the bottom of the hour. Tomorrow, Reverend Michael Carter, E.T. in the Bible. Wednesday, Dennis Stone, America's Stonehenge. And then, of course, Thursday is Fader Night. I wanted to make a comment really quick about Jay before we head to the break. Jay, there are researchers out there that go after the stuff that we know about. Okay? Which is cool. All right? Yeah, we need to know. We need to find out new stuff about whatever it may be. Jay Weidner chooses a different path. And just like, I'll say this, like Peter Levenda, Jay Weidner and his research into alchemy, archons, and the Great Cross of Hendaye and Falconelli is second to none. And tonight, we are going to go on a journey. That's right. The Great Cross of Hendaye and its significance and what it means, where it is, when it was made, and its connections to everything else out there that was going on, not only in the Renaissance, but for the future of mankind too as well. And what it all means is a journey like none other. And we're going to do that tonight with Jay. We're going to start at the beginning. We're going to get to the end. And it's an incredible story. Tonight, after this, I want everybody to go and Google and wiki the Great Cross of Hendaye and Falconelli and go on a trip. We're going to introduce you to all of that tonight. It is incredible. Tonight, Jay Weidner will be joining us here in just a few minutes. Tomorrow night, Reverend Michael Carter. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Shoot me an email, jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Follow us on Twitter @JChurchRadio. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses, only on the Dark Matter Radio Network. See you in a second.
Are you afraid of the dark? Don't move. Don't touch that mouse. You are listening to Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses on jimmychurchradio.com.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
Dark Matter.
Dark Matter. Dark Matter. Dark Matter. Dark Matter.
You're listening to Fade to Black
on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Ah, yes. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Only on the Dark Matter Radio Network. Follow us on Twitter right now at Church Radio, hashtag DMRadioNet. Come hang out in the sandbox. You can also shoot me an email to Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. And maybe later, if we have some time, Jay and I will take your calls. Are you guys ready? Let's do this. Jay Weidner, called by Wired Magazine an authority on the Hermetic and alchemical traditions, and erudite conspiracy hunter. Jay Weidner is a renowned author, filmmaker, and Hermetic scholar, considered to be a modern-day Indiana Jones. For his ongoing worldwide quest to find clues to mankind's spiritual destiny via ancient societies and artifacts, his body of work offers great insight into the circumstances that have led to the current global crisis. He is the director of the documentaries Kubrick's Odyssey, Infinity, The Ultimate Trip, and the forthcoming feature film The Last Avatar. He is currently finishing the third part of his Kubrick's Odyssey series. I'd like to welcome back to the program our good friend, Jay Weidner. Jay, how are you tonight, sir?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
You know, it's always a good day when Jay Weidner's in the house. Let's just make that perfectly clear, my friend.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
So, modern day Indiana Jones, you know, an authority on Hermetic and alchemical traditions from Wired Mag. You know, that's heavy stuff. Do you feel heavy?
Well, you know, at my ripe old age, when I read my bio or have someone read my bio, it does feel a bit heavy, yeah.
Well, I mean, because, well, I know who you are, but, you know, leading into this, somebody that's never, you know, followed you or seen any of your films or read any of your stuff, they're like, okay, this better be good. You know, so, you know, that's what you've got on your shoulders. Is that heavy?
I know. It's always hard to top yourself. It's tough.
How are you, Jay? What's going on, man? Are you cold? What's the weather like in Colorado right now?
Freezing friggin' cold in Colorado. We got the polar vortex, watching the storms. I'm not sure if this new storm has actually hit California or not, but if it did, I'd be surprised because all the storms are blowing right off the coast of the West Coast. I'm a West Coaster, by the way.
Yes, we know.
I'm a lonely surfer boy in Colorado. But you know, I'm watching the storms, and they roar up the West Coast without ever touching land, and then they go into Alaska, take this big, huge U-turn, gather up all this freezing friggin' cold air, and then come right down the middle of the country where I am, freezing the hell out of the place. And, you know, this cold here is so cold that I'm not sure we're ever going to warm up again until April or May.
Yeah, and that's the way you always feel in winter in the Midwest or not, anywhere north of, you know, Texas.
Yep.
That's the way it is. And I'll say this. The guilt that I have, not only with the listeners to the show, but, you know, friends and family when they call, you know, from back east, you know, hey, how you doing? And I know that they scrape their car windows to go to work in the morning that day. You know, I know that that's what's going on. And they're wearing thermals and they're doing everything they can to just like forget about the cold. And the guilt that I have, I never mention the weather here. I just don't. What do I have to complain about? You're from here. You lived in the valley for forever.
Yeah.
And you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a reason why we live here, man. There's a reason.
Oh, yeah. You know, and there's all the little things, too, which you don't really understand until you're actually here, like the touch of the steering wheel on your fingertips.
Bingo.
Oh, Lord. You know, for the first 10 minutes, it's just agony until the heater finally kicks in the car. And, you know, these kinds of things you don't really think about until... And also, I don't know, it's like arthritis and stuff seems to get you here, whereas in California I never felt anything.
I used to have, back in Indianapolis, I had a 1966 Mustang, right?
Cool.
And yeah, it was cool. But cool isn't the word. in the winter, right? In the winter, when I drove to work, I worked at Bell Labs, and when I would drive to work, the heater, it was like a half-hour drive, for me to get to work, and I would pull in the parking lot at Bell Labs, and then the heater would just kick on. So I would drive to work. If it was minus 20, I drove to work minus 20. I mean, that's it.
Probably with the wind chill in the car, closer to minus 30.
It was insane. Every day going to work, Jay, was the same thing going through my mind. This is the last time I am doing this. This is the last time. I'm done. But you have to do it. And you would look around, and everybody was doing the same thing. Scarves and gloves and boots and oh man. So anyway, the guilt. Yeah, I'm sitting here right now in shorts and flip flops in the studio, and I know it's cold outside. It's about 60, and okay. So
you're about 45 degrees higher than we are.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Though, I'll say this about Denver as we move on. It doesn't. All the times that I've been there, it's been it's gotten cold and everything, but it doesn't really snow that much there, does it? I mean,
no, we don't get any precipitation. Actually, it's not that cold. It's just cold now.
Right.
It's just killing us. Okay. It's kind of killing us. I was watching the football game in Memphis. You could see everybody's breath. So, it's far down south as Tennessee. So
yeah. It looks like this time the mass media was right when they were talking about this cold wave, and I was looking at it on the maps. And this time it's for real. It looks pretty brutal, and I don't know if it's going to let up. I think winter's here.
Actually, it's related to the drought in California, because I'm telling you, the storms aren't hitting you guys. They're hitting this invisible barrier, which they're telling us is a high pressure system, and then they're just bouncing north, and which looks left depending on how you look at it on the map, and going straight towards Alaska, and then making a huge U-turn in the polar areas, and then coming right down where we are. This is the cause of the polar vortex. The drought and the polar vortex are directly related, and they're not telling us this in the media.
It might be a secret Russian weapon.
Well, a lot of people think it's HARP being used to bounce the radiation-filled rain clouds away from California.
And why with all of this ability to cause rain, like they do in Dubai, they seed those clouds every single day. That's what they do. Why don't they do that in Southern California? Why force us? You lived here long enough. The droughts that happen here. I remember there was it didn't rain a drop here for 7 years. Some crazy number. A drop. Right. Yeah. Why don't they do that over LA? Why don't
Jimmy, why don't they? I mean, it's exactly the point. I mean, here's the thing is they've got all the power to do it, yet they don't do it. And in fact, they're diverting it away. It looks okay. It's being diverted away, whether they're diverting it or it's just a natural weather phenomena. Either way, the rain that usually feeds the West Coast is being diverted up into the north, whether it's a high pressure system or a HARP or whatever. So the question is if it is these guys and they're doing it, the question is why? Why are they suddenly stopping you guys from having any water at all?
We're depending on all the water here in Southern California. Most people don't realize is aqueduct in Mulholland, and it comes from the snow melt off up in the mountains, up in the islands, up in the mountains, and comes down. And before Mulholland got that done, this was serious desert. I mean, we're living in a place where there isn't supposed to be water, and we pump it in every single day. It comes from the mountains, and without
and from Colorado too, by the way.
What's that? Oh,
and from Colorado. Yeah, you guys get a lot of your water also from the Colorado River, which is headwatered here. And
that's right. Of course.
Yeah, and anybody wants to know the history of this, watch the great movie Chinatown. It's on Netflix. Roman Polanski's whole movie about the Southern California water wars. Incredible movie.
I talk about Chinatown all the time.
One of my absolute top five
one of
films.
the top. And what the story that nobody really talks about, because we have Mulholland Drive out here, we have Mulholland Highway, and what a great man he was, and he brought water here. That dude. Well, you know what though? The thing is about Mulholland, and is this either pure genius or total crook. It's one of the, yeah. You think so? You think there's some gray area?
He was a genius.
Yeah,
the whole water trick was ingenious. That's portrayed in Chinatown. That's a true story.
Yes, it is. It's a true story.
Yes, and that was ingenious. What a great way to get the whole aqueduct system, built and made and everything. And he and his cronies, man, they made a fortune. Holy smokes, did they make a fortune?
Yeah, he goes.
Somebody should do a whole history of the real truth of Southern California and what really happened down there.
Oh, what he did was, he designed everything. He was an engineer, and so he designed the whole thing, and then but he buys all the land up.
He did
that the aqueduct's going to sit on. He takes it to the Los Angeles city planners and goes, "Okay, man, I can bring you water. Here it is." Oh, great, fantastic. Yep. But break out your checkbook. And it's just like, what? Oh, man. Can you imagine how many laws he would have broken today in doing that?
Oh, yeah, he couldn't have done it. In fact, it's just something that you could only do once, and you couldn't pull it off again. And, and he did that, but, he just literally destroyed the water systems of the northern Sierras there, so... I don't know.
Well, the film industry had to move on. And, all of the water that he brought here, and I know you remember, the orange groves that were here in the valley, and
Van Nuys is all orange groves.
It was all orange groves, and all those famous scenes with Jack Nicholson, rolling through those. None of that exists anymore.
No,
everything that they brought that water for it's not here. There's nothing here. I don't think they grow anything in the valley anymore. There's no grass. There's no dirt. It's all concrete.
Yes,
so,
it is.
But we love it. It's so difficult.
I would have been really happy if I could have lived in Los Angeles in the 30s, when their population was about 250,000. The movie industry was the only industry outside of agriculture. And, can you imagine living there with hardly any people? You still had the rail lines going, so you didn't even need a car.
Right.
You could go all the way to Santa Monica on a quarter.
Right.
And from Pasadena, that is.
Right.
And I mean, it must have been paradise.
Well, the 70s too as well, the 60s and 70s.
Yeah,
with the whole surfing thing and skateboarding and everything that was going on. But the population, because here in the valley, in LA in general, I read somewhere, it's like 1 million people move here per year. A million. And so just do the math. I've been here, I'm not saying we've increased by 30 million people, because people have left here too as well. But I've watched, West Covina, which used to be out in nowhere's land,
middle of nowhere
is now connected to LA.
Yeah. Now it's all the way out to San Bernardino and
Riverside. Palm Springs, which was in another country. It's now just one big city going
one giant megapolis.
Yeah, it's 100
all
miles
the way down to the border, actually, including Tijuana. So
the whole coast going down the 5. When you land at LAX and you're coming in, and once you cross the Arizona border and you're looking out the window of the airplane, you just look, and I've watched it happen over the years. I've been landing here since 1984. And it used to be spotty, the cities. Now when you land and you cross Arizona, it starts, and it doesn't end until you get to LAX. It's one constant city. Yeah, it's insane. Yeah. It's totally insane. How do we get off on that tangent? Where do we go?
Oh, no, it's one of my loves of Los Angeles history is actually one of my sub-hobbies, so... You get me going on it, I'll never stop.
Yeah, I think we did that last time we were on the show, too. We talked about Laurel Canyon for about 45 minutes.
Laurel Canyon, what an interesting subject that is.
We can almost go there right now. All right, let's do this. last time that you were on the show, and it was not only one of the most popular shows that we've done, and that I still get email about it to this day, is, you and I or any guest that's on the show, we start where we start, we end where we end. And last time I was so excited to get you on. I wanted to cover so many different things, and I was probably a little ambitious and tried to pack too much in. Tonight, and I know that you've got some new research that we're going to talk about too on Hendaye, but tonight it is such a fascinating story, and the way that it spider webs into so many different things. And we have so many new listeners tonight that probably aren't familiar with the first show. So it's going to be great for them. And I know I pumped it up at the beginning of the show, but it is truly a journey. And it all focuses around the Great Cross of Hendaye. So what I would like for you to do, if you would, let's start there. What is and where is the Cross of Hendaye? Let's spend some time there before we go deep.
All right. So the Cross of Hendaye, thank you for asking the question. The Cross of Hendaye is a little town in the Spanish border in France on the west coast. It's a surfing town, actually. And it's actually pronounced Hendaye in French, and if you were British, it would be Hendaye, like end day, Hendaye. And this little cross, a strange, unusual cross, sits in a churchyard in one near the main square in town. So if you're walking, going shopping or whatever in the afternoon, you would see this little strange cross about 12 feet high, has a pedestal about 4 feet high with 4 panels on it. The panel that you would see facing you on the street in Hendaye would be the angry sun surrounded by 4 flaming objects. And then on the south side, you would see a circle with 4 A's and a cross in the middle of the circle. And you can all go to jweidner.com, and I think it's the top article, and you can see pictures of all this if you want. And then on the north side, you would see an 8-pointed star, and on the that would be on the east side. And on the north side, you would see a fairy tale moon that also looks like a boat. Then there's a pillar coming out of the top of the pedestal, and on top of the pillars, like a Greek pillar, is a cross, and the cross has a Latin phrase on it, which roughly translate to, "Hail the cross, our only hope." Now, doesn't sound like much. What happened is that in the 1920s, a book was published that caused quite a big stir in Paris. This book was called Mysteries of the Cathedrals, written by an anonymous man named Fulcanelli. Fulcanelli was making the claim in this book that the Gothic cathedrals actually had the secrets of alchemy. Alchemy is the ancient science of immortality, of turning lead into gold, and supposedly it isn't true. But here was this guy who was obviously incredibly intelligent, telling us, the reader, that the Gothic cathedrals that were built from 1300 to about 1500 in Europe were all telling us alchemical secrets, how to make the Philosopher's Stone or the elixir of life, which would grant the person immortality. Well, this was just outrageous, and this book just caused this huge stir, because it was like, here we had the 20th century. We actually had an alchemist who was telling us the secrets of alchemy were right there on these walls. So this caused a huge sensation, this book, and the book lay there, printed 300 copies, which caused a huge sensation, was printed, and then nothing really happened until 30 years later, when a publisher in France decided to republish this book. Well, when this publisher republished the book in French, there was a new chapter added to the book, and the new chapter was on the Cross of Hendaye. Now, this is odd, because Fulcanelli had supposedly died in 1932. So why hadn't this chapter been included in the original edition, and why was it included in this edition now? And did Fulcanelli even write it? Who wrote it? And where did it come from? None of these questions have ever been answered, although I can speculate. Anyway, this book was then translated into English with the new chapter in it, and that was a copy that I got later in 1986 is when I first read the book. And I became completely intrigued by this cross, because in this chapter, Fulcanelli tells us that this cross has some of the most advanced knowledge ever seen on any monument. And that if you actually know how to interpret this, it's telling you about a double catastrophe that happened a long time ago and will happen again in the future. And it's even telling you of where there's a place of refuge where you can go to hide from this double catastrophe. And Fulcanelli tells us in the chapter that the cross was built by a master mason who had incredibly advanced astronomical knowledge. And, you know, I was hooked. I mean, the hook was in my mouth and broke through my lip, and, you know, I was being taken away by the fishermen, and I couldn't resist and still can't resist. So I spent many years, about 14 years, really looking into the Cross of Hendaye, examining everything about it, scrutinizing Fulcanelli and everything that he wrote. And I wrote a couple books, Monument to the End of Time and Mysteries of the Great Cross of Hendaye, which are still, I think, available. And at least the latter one is. And I interpreted the cross. And through that process, I went through my own personal transformation, where I went from kind of a cynical journalist, really, who believed that science could explain everything, to a person who actually believes that there's this huge multiverse out there. I believe in a deep spiritual world. I believe in reincarnation. I believe that the world is a much more mysterious place than we ever thought that science could ever conceive. I believe in alchemy. I believe that there was a catastrophe. I believe that the people who built the Cross of Hendaye and Fulcanelli himself are proof that there is a benevolent secret society that is helping to direct humanity's destiny. And I'm not talking about the Illuminati. I'm talking about almost like the anti-Illuminati. And they have to keep secret and quiet because the Illuminati seeks them out and wants to find them, because the Illuminati knows what these guys are up to. And all this is a direct result of my investigations into the Cross of Hendaye. So,
what were your beliefs in all of this before you stumbled on cathedrals? Because did you have an open mind? Did you?
I had an open mind, but I believed in Darwinism. I believed in science. I believed in. I was an atheist. I believed that people who believed in spiritual things are actually kind of dumb, and it was embarrassing. I had no idea the deep resonance that a true ethical spirituality would bring to me, and it alienated me. I mean, I became, I lost a lot of friends and family who thought, frankly, I'd lost my mind as I delved deeper and deeper into this, and it changed me forever, and I can't thank Fulcanelli enough for doing it.
I think that book has the same effect on anybody who reads it, and
it does. You're right.
Yeah, certainly. So you stumbled. It had to have been something that I'm sure you look back now. It was meant to be. What were the odds? And tell the story real quick. I know the story, but it's fantastic. About you in a bookstore in North Hollywood, and you find the book, or it found you. Tell us about that.
Well, actually, it wasn't a store. It was a garage sale.
Oh, garage sale.
And I was, I would go out on Saturdays to garage sales because I was a book freak, and I would look for books, and books were starting to fall into disregard even back then in the 80s. So I could pick up valuable books that stupid people did not know were valuable for nothing.
Right.
And I was on the lookout, and I would sell them. I would sell them to book collectors and things. I have probably, 15, 20,000 books in my house. Anyway, so I was at this garage sale, and this guy had died, and his wife, I believe it was his wife, was just trying to get rid of his books. And he was obviously a very esoteric gentleman, and he had a lot of good books, but I only had $20 on me, and she was selling the books for $1 each. So I collected 20 of the most interesting books I could find and gave her my 20. And one of them was this book called Mysteries of the Cathedrals. And I thought it was about architecture. And I was really into architecture.
Which is
and
cool.
Gothic architecture.
Sure.
Yeah. And so I took it home and started reading. And like, what? This isn't about architecture at all. This is about something called alchemy. That stupid art thing that they think can turn lead into gold. What a bunch of idiots. And then, I'm about 15, 20 pages into this, and I'm realizing that this guy is so smart, so intelligent, that this is either a hoax. This book is either an elaborate hoax, or which I could not understand why anyone would waste their time making a hoax like this, or we have a case of someone with an extremely high IQ talking about something that I've been told my whole life was nonsense, alchemy. And so I said, you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. I know that I'm not as smart as this guy, so maybe I'm wrong, and I'll extend the rope out here, and let's see if this guy's right. And then what I did was I began looking. I began seeing if what he was telling me was right, historical anecdotes and things like that. And I would find out that not only was he right, but what I had thought was the historical truth was wrong. And so that's when it really shook me, because he began. He does a little trick in the book where he, for some reason, for no reason or whatever reason, he'll suddenly italicize a word. And I decided at a certain point that I would look into every italicized word in the book. Look it up in an encyclopedia, look up historically about this word. And that's when the real work began, because as I began looking into this, I realized that almost everything that I had been taught, history, science, religion, spirituality, everything that I had been taught was absolutely wrong. And that was the whole point. He wanted me, whoever was going through this exercise, to come to that conclusion. Because only when you realize that everything that you've been taught is wrong can you clean the slate and start over with a new, to remake your own personality and spirit. And that was the whole point. That's what alchemy is.
I'm picturing Richard Dreyfuss in Close Encounters. You just completely, well, everybody says, went down the rabbit hole, but you did, feet first.
Yeah, unwittingly, actually. I actually wanted to prove the book wrong, that this was a bunch of nonsense, but as I got going, it was just ridiculous. And then pretty soon, it just took a hold of me, and then it was over. I never really gotten over it.
This is Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network, bespoke radio for the masses. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We are talking with Jay Weidner. Okay, Jay, let's now that we've got the cross a little bit out of the way, and you started to talk about who Falconelli is or was, but now tell us a little bit about Falconelli and who he might have been, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, my conclusions is that he was a committee. And so we have to backtrack a little. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors going on around Falconelli. Right after World War II ended, the OSS, which is the precursors to the CIA, did a major investigation trying to find Falconelli in France. And they did not find him, as far as I know. But I think that caused a lot of people to remember the end of the movie Spartacus, when the Romans are trying to find who Spartacus is,
mm-hmm.
and Kirk Douglas is just about to stand up
mm-hmm.
to announce that he's Spartacus, when one guy off to the right stands up and says, "I am Spartacus." Another guy stands up, "I am Spartacus," and then pretty soon everybody's standing up and saying they're Spartacus. So the Romans don't know who Spartacus is, right?
Right.
that's kind of what happened. A lot of guys stood up and said, well, Fulcanelli is this guy, and Fulcanelli is that guy, and all these different people. And I think it was the outer fringes of this secret society running interference, I guess you could say, to make sure that the identity of Fulcanelli was never really discovered, because it was that important that he never get discovered. Now, the reason that was so important that his identity never gets discovered is what I said before. So there's this, my thesis, and I'm writing a paper on this. I'm actually going to I think I'm going to make a documentary on it. So my thesis actually comes from Graham Hancock, actually, and his great book, Fingerprints of the Gods.
Mm-hmm.
In that book, which is a must-read, I think, for everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah. In that book, he postulates that let me see. I want to make sure I say this right. I'm going to make sure I do this right, okay? So let's do this right. There is overwhelming evidence right now, and beyond any shadow of a doubt, I believe. And I think, and I'm pretty sure, that this subject is going to be the subject of Graham Hancock's next big nonfiction book, the sequel to Fingerprints of the Gods, which is coming out next year,
right?
Which I'm really looking forward to. Anyway, there's incredibly great evidence now that 10,900 BCE, a comet, and I mean a gigantic comet, came into our atmosphere and broke up into pieces and hit the Earth. We have nanoparticles, nanodiamonds, iridium, all sorts of evidence to show that this happened. And geologists are actually beginning to say, no, this happened. And this sucker was so bad that it hit and it threw up so much dirt and dust and water and moisture into the atmosphere that it plunged us into one of the worst ice ages ever, which scientists called the Younger Dryas.
Mm-hmm.
And for about 1,200 years, this planet was plunged into darkness and cold, a cold like we've never seen. And thousands and thousands and thousands of species of animals died, and we have their remains. And billions of humans died. And a huge, incredibly long-lived, very advanced, spiritually at least, civilization was destroyed at that point. And this is where alchemy comes from, this incredibly advanced, long civilization that had many, maybe even 100,000 years to advance without any break in it. And it knew all the secrets that we've lost, actually, and we're only now starting to regain. And so at the end of the Younger Dryas, suddenly another event happens. And this event ends the Younger Dryas, and suddenly the Earth warms up again. But the Younger Dryas, 1,200 years later in 9,700 BCE, when the Younger Dryas ends, there is a sudden flooding of everything. The whole Earth is just completely flooded. And according to Hancock, and I think he's right, a remnant of the former great civilization somehow survived with all of their secrets intact. And they searched the earth to find a place where they could ensconce these secrets. And they looked and they found this plateau where a gigantic, huge piece of bedrock was. And they decided that this was going to be the place where they would build their edifice, which would ensconce all of their great sacred knowledge. And that place is what we call Giza today. And they built first the Great Sphinx, which was pointing east, and they did this to show you what time period this thing was when it happened, this catastrophe. It was in the time of Leo. It was when that Sphinx would face the rising Leo on March 21st, first day of spring, and that would have been 10,900 BC. And then they built the pyramids, and they built them in the shape of the belt stars of Orion, but the perfect emulation of the belt stars could only have happened in 10,900 BC. That's when it perfectly mirrors the belt stars of Orion.
That's right.
Again, a double evidence here. We have the Sphinx pointing towards Leo, which is 10,900 BCE, and then we have the emulation of the belt stars on the ground, which can only have occurred in 10,900 BC. Two pieces of evidence pointing towards the same exact time period. Okay, so these great priests built the pyramids somehow, we don't know how, using some kind of advanced technology, and then they put polished limestone over them, all over them, and then they painted the outside of the pyramids with all of their knowledge. Those limestones were taken away by the Muslims in, like the last 1,000 years, and they used them to build
Cairo.
Yeah, Cairo, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, here's where Hancock comes in. He thinks that this group that survived the last catastrophe and built the pyramids, he calls them the Shem Sharu, or the followers of Horus. Okay, he thinks it's a secret society which somehow kept all their knowledge intact and built the pyramids as a great way to ensconce that knowledge so that it would never be lost. Then they built boats. This is in Fingerprints of the Gods, folks. Then they built boats, and they went out all over the world, and they taught the remnants who survived this horrible, horrible catastrophe the arts of civilization. And he proves by going all over the world and showing all of these legends of these bearded white men in boats who come to Peru, they're Quetzalcoatl in Mexico, Indians in North America report it, Polynesians report it, all over the world they report the same thing. These men in boats, these white bearded men in boats who come and teach them how to grow food, how to read and write, how to respect women. It's always the same exact kinds of things, right, that they teach them.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have that established, okay? There's a secret society that was incredibly benevolent, that survived with all their knowledge intact. So the question becomes, okay, so where did they go, right? After this, what happened to them? And what I think is that and I think this is actually the most important part of the Cross of Hendaye, and it's kind of gotten lost in the wash, which is why I'm bringing it all back now. I believe that the Cross of Hendaye is absolute proof that the Shem Sharu, the followers of Horus, were active at least 400 years ago when the cross was built in France. And actually, I believe that the fact that Fulcanelli could look at the cross and correctly interpret it in sometime in the 20th century and then write it all down is proof that he has to be a member also of this group, because how would he know what the cross was saying unless he already knew it? Right?
Yes.
That's the key that seems to pass by everybody, including me. Is wait a minute here. We have proof that they're an incredibly advanced secret society that knew of the double catastrophe, remembered it exactly right, and put it into the cross. And then we have Fulcanelli, who, casually walking by the cross, saw it, and then knew enough to know what it meant, and then wrote it down. So I'm saying that there's proof that this secret society, Fulcanelli is proof that this secret society existed all the way into the 20th century, which gives me cause for great hope, by the way, because, it's amazing. So, some people will be saying, well, what are you talking about? So I'd like to just briefly go around the Cross of Hendaye and explain to you what's really going on these panels. So on the front panel that's facing you when you're walking down the street, which is really the most important panel, is the angry sun surrounded by 4 flaming objects. Okay? Well, this is what I just described to you. The 4 flaming objects are the comet that broke up into 4 pieces and hit the Earth. And then the second catastrophe happened 1,200 years later when the sun exploded and ended the Younger Dryas. And Robert Schoch the great geologist, who's the one who uncovered that the Sphinx is actually eroded and is much older than we think it is. His most recent book, Forgotten Civilizations, he shows that the Younger Dryas was ended by a gigantic coronal mass ejection, or CME, or solar flare. Exactly what the cross of Hendaye is showing.
I'm looking at the angry sun right here on the front of Hendaye, and I'm going to ask Dale and Wowo to get these up on Twitter really quick. But that's exactly what it looks like. Exactly how you describe it. There's really no other way to interpret it. Well, okay, it could be 4 stars, but it is definitely a sun being surrounded by 4 objects, and the sun is definitely
it's growing.
He's pissed off.
Yeah, he's pissed off, and he's expanding.
Right.
And there's no way around interpreting it any other way.
Right.
So what would be what are the most important things, that this secret society would want to convey downstream, right, to us, if it's benevolent, secret society, like I'm postulating here. And that would be, they'd want us to know about the nature of what happened to us, right? What hit us, what destroyed us, right? And this is it right here, right? Then the second thing they want you to really understand is something called the precession of the equinoxes. And if we go around to this panel on the south side, we see the circle with the 4 A's and the cross.
Right.
And this is a perfect description of this process called the precession of the equinoxes, which is the backward motion of the Earth as it drifts through the space, and the wobble of the Earth inscribes, the Earth has a wobble because we're on a 23.5 degree axis, and this wobble takes about 25,920 years to go through one complete turn. And you can measure time if you understand the precession. And of course, this secret society wants you to understand how to measure time.
Is there a reason why, really quick, as we're talking about the layout, when you're looking straight at the cross and you're looking at the angry sun, to the right of that, on the right side, is the 4 A's.
That's right.
Yeah, is there a reason why it's there on the right side?
Yes, actually, because that's facing south. So if you were in the northern hemisphere and you wanted to map the precession of the equinoxes, you'd have to face south.
And then on the left side, I've been so fascinated with this. What's on the left side?
The other side of the angry sun is the fairy tale moon,
which is for everybody. It's your classic fairy tale moon. It's the moon man face.
It looks like a boat also
because it's sideways. Yes,
that's right, and it has a hawse hole. If you look near the hole in the front of the boat, there's a little hole. That's where the anchor goes through in a boat. That's called a hawse hole, and so that's clear evidence that that's also a boat. Remember what I told you? These men went out in boats, right? Right?
Yeah.
Okay, and don't forget, buried right next to the Great Pyramid are these giant stone boats that they discovered like 100 years ago.
Right.
And these are like homages to their what they did with these boats, going out and bringing civilization to the world. Right?
Now, and so that the fairy moon, the fairy tale moon guy would be on the north side.
That's right. Very good.
And why would he be on the north side?
Because, that's a good question. The reason he's on the north side is because what it's saying is that the catastrophe happened in the north, and that you're going to need a boat to save your ass.
Okay.
Okay, and the comet hit near the North Pole. We know that now. It shattered. It hit the North Pole. One piece broke off and split into 1 million little pieces and created all those little round lakes that are in northern Canada. And then another piece shot across the United States and created essentially the bays in North Carolina. The strange and odd bays that are there. That's a hit. That's another place where the comet hit. North America got absolutely creamed in this thing.
So are you saying like Cape Canaveral and all those capes that are out there, those perfectly shaped circular bays were chunks of comet?
Those were formed by this hit, right? That caused the water to move backwards from the ocean into the land, right?
Yeah.
And caused all those little bays to happen. It broke up into maybe 50 pieces by the time, it finally hit. It was awful. It was the worst catastrophe since the 60 million years ago when the comet hit that destroyed the dinosaurs, if that's exactly what happened. And we almost all died in this thing. And Graham goes into accounts where, people as far south as, Iran were freezing to death. And so we're talking about, seriously freezing cold weather that nearly killed everybody.
Now, on the backside, we have a giant star or comet. What is that?
That's the 8-pointed star. And that has a various meanings. One, it could mean that the comet broke up into the 4 pieces that then broke up into smaller pieces, right? But also, that's also the this secret societies. They worship a goddess, and their goddess is Isis or Ishtar, and that's her symbol. So that's another reason why that's there.
And with Falconelli in Mysteries of the Cathedrals, what were his descriptions of these 4 sides?
Interestingly, he stays away from the star and the moon and the 4 A's, and only talks about the angry sun. But he's very elusive even there. He never tells you anything except that you have to find out for yourself, right, what this all means. So it's actually very interesting. The cross is a multitude of cross references in esoteric knowledge, which, literally I could talk for 15, 20 hours about the cross and without saying anything twice. There's so many things in it that are evocative that I can't even begin to say it. But what I really want, just to emphasize is that the new thought community and the scientific community is reaching the conclusion that the Earth was hit first by a comet and then 1,200 years later by a solar flare. This comet, they say, broke up into 4 pieces, and if you look at that panel, there it is. Right? Mm-hmm. And so now that to me says, okay, I've got the smoking gun now. Mm-hmm. I have the smoking gun to say that there is a secret society that was active all the way into the 20th century, which has advanced knowledge of the human condition, including alchemy. And that brings me such hope that I don't even know where to begin to express it, because that means that they may still be there, and that when the chaos and the world begins to fall apart, which it surely is, maybe they're going to be in the wings waiting to bring about this rebirth with their advanced knowledge, which I know they surely have. How would they have known about the double catastrophe before science had discovered it if they weren't very advanced?
Has the cross been defaced, or the way that it's represented today, is that the way that it was originally designed and erected?
Yep, it's falling apart now, and the cars going by will destroy the cross of Hendaye within 50 years. It's already crumbling into dust. What's interesting, though, is that it looks like the cross of Hendaye this may be the second or third iteration of it. In other words, it looks like it gets remade every few hundred years.
What makes you say that?
Well, we have historical references that say that there was a cross there, like 600 years earlier, but it would be impossible because we can pretty much date this cross, and we know this cross was built around 1600. So what I'm saying is that possibly there was a cross that maybe was built in 1200 and it was starting to deteriorate, and so the secret society replaced it in 1600.
Now, what about the cross itself on the top? What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, the cross on the top is very interesting because it has, of course, what I described as this Latin inscription called, which basically says, "Hail the cross, our only hope," in Latin. But unfortunately, it's written so that, let's say that the cross said United States of America instead of "Hail the cross, the only hope," right? Well, it would be like having United States on the top line, then of America underneath it. But instead of saying United States, it said United State. And underneath this, instead of saying of America, it said S-O-V, America. In other words, the S at the end at States got moved down to the bottom line somehow, right?
Right.
Which is, you're carving this cross. I mean, that's a really pretty idiotic mistake, right?
Right.
So, I mean, you got to plan this out. And anyway, Fulcanelli indicates that this is a mistake, but that the author did it on purpose. And he did it because he wants you to know that there's a refuge that you can go to when this double catastrophe hits. Well, I'm like, what? I definitely got to find this out. And so it took me about 7 years constantly working on it, taking that little Latin inscription and trying to figure out, how it was going to tell me where this place of refuge was. And then one day, in a moment of clarity, I deciphered the inscription, and I do it in my books. I show you exactly how I did it. Anyway, I break it up into it's a sort of an anagram, and I break it up, and it comes out to say two things, actually. One, Inca Caves, Cusco, Peru, and then the second one, which is, again, using all the letters exactly right, it says, "Hail to the cross at Urcos," word spelled U-R-C-O-S. And I was in a car actually waiting for someone, and I had a scratch pad, and I figured all this out in like 2 seconds after 7 years of working on it. And I was like, what? What is all this? Inca Cave, Cusco, Peru, hail to the cross at Urcos? What? So
well, you can look at it, and once you say that and you're looking at the inscription, that's exactly what it says.
Yeah. So I ran home and
Interesting.
I looked up the word Urcos because I couldn't understand what that was.
Right.
And lo and behold, they're 20 miles away from Cusco, which had already been identified in the inscription. It's a little town called Urcos. And I'm like, what? What? And then that got me, I didn't have enough money to travel to Peru yet at that time. But I did have enough money to buy, I'm going to forget his name, but he was Pizarro's artist, the artist that went with Pizarro on his conquest. And he was a documentary. He wrote down everything that happened, and he sketched everything that happened.
Right.
And I bought his book, and I read it. And in that book, I found a drawing that he had made when Pizarro, and don't forget, now just remember, the cross was made in 1600, and Pizarro was over there in Peru at the same exact time. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it says the secret of the Incas, this drawing. And on the drawing is a thing has been divided into four. The drawing has been divided into four quadrants, just like that circle with the cross on the cross. And then there's a sun, a moon, a star, and then instead of the circle with the A's, it says it shows you a whole bunch of caves, right? And it says the caves, right, on this thing.
Uh-huh.
And so then that made me go back to that circle with the funny A's on it. And if you look at those A's, they're Masonic. They're like the Masonic symbol. The way the bottom bar of the A is bent upwards into a right angle, looks just like the Masonic symbol. And then I realized that, these A's could also be mountains, and that little, weird A crossbow could be indicating that there's some kind of caves in these mountains, right?
Yeah, because they're not necessarily A's. They just look like A's to us in a modern sense, but
right.
they could stand for anything.
It could.
Yes.
And the fact is that, even at that time, 1600s, we have continents that have a lot of A's in them. We have America, we have Africa, we have Asia, right? We have odd amount of continents named after, words that begin with A. So I didn't even know if that's what it meant. The 4 continents, Antarctica, Arctic. So anyway, I began realizing that, wow, if I wanted to get away from, comets striking the Earth and throwing us into the Younger Dryas, and then a huge solar flare coming and frying the Earth, I would want to be someplace up high to get away from all the flooding, and then B, I'd want to be inside a cave for when the solar flares hit and everything else happens, right?
Right.
And then I realized, wow, high up in the mountains in the Andes or in the Himalayas or even in the Rockies would be, a really good thing to do. And if I could find a cave, that would even be better. So at that point, I received a benefactor, and I flew down to Peru. And lo and behold, I discovered that all over the Andes Mountains are tunnel systems and caves and rumors and a history of people being lost in these huge, long tunnel systems and some never coming back and Peruvian army getting lost in them and never being seen again. And I've been in these tunnel systems and they're man-made. I mean, they're not natural. They're partly natural, but they've been carved out. And then I got into the whole history of Viracocha, the great savior of the Peruvian people, who was white with a beard, who instructed the people to go into a cave to hide from the catastrophe. And then he kept them alive in the cave, and then he brought them out afterwards where civilization was rebuilt. And this whole thing just started really making just a lot of sense to me as far as what was going on here. But the thing that I have to iterate and reiterate is that the cross of Hendaye proves that this secret society, this benevolent secret society, does not want to control us, but wants to help us, wants to warn us, wants us to survive, loves us, is still active even now, maybe.
I'm looking at it now, and now that you've explained it like that, I don't even see A's. They're not.
Exactly.
They're not A's. They're not
No,
A's.
they're not.
No,
They're not.
with that notch, with the cross. Well, it's not a crossbar. It's almost an inverted A.
It is,
and it looks like a mountain with a cave on it now.
It does. Exactly where you'd want to go is, and you wouldn't want to cave near the bottom of the mountain. You'd want to cave near the top of the mountain.
That is totally interesting. And with the I don't know what you call it in lettering. I used to, but the notch on the bottom legs of the A's aren't really what they look like in calligraphy. Now it looks like the base of something strong.
Yep.
That's exactly what it looks like to me. Interesting. Now, why? Maybe you blew this past me. Why 4 of these? Is it 4 different mountains, 4 different chunks of comet?
I believe that's exactly right. No, yeah, I think the 4 comets could be, but no, I think they're saying there's 4 places of refuge, but, and remember, this is 1600, the one place that the cross was telling you to go, where I think you could go unmolested, at least at that time, would have been Peru.
So,
in other words, I think there's a refugee, I know there's a refugee in place in the Himalayas, and probably in the Zagros Mountains in Iran. And
so we're
Afghanistan.
looking at the circle itself is Earth, and then we have 4 different quadrants, with maybe the equator and then something north and south, and then it's indicating.
That's right.
It's indicating a mountain on each one of 4 continents.
That's right. You got it.
So South America.
Those continents, and those continents all have A's. They all begin with A's. So Africa, Kilimanjaro, Asia, the Himalayas, America North, probably the Rockies, and then America South, the Andes, which are also named after A's.
What about Alaska?
Could be Alaska. Yeah, it could be. It's just someplace up north. I believe, personally, that it's Northern California.
Real? Oh, Mount Shasta.
Mount Shasta. Yeah, I believe that's the.
That was too easy for you. I just threw you a softball.
Segue.
Bam. This is Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network, bespoke radio for the masses. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We are talking with Jay Weidner, and tonight is a cross of Hendaye. I caught that, by the way. I like the way you corrected me. The Great Cross of Hendaye Special. So, do people walk by this all day long and don't have a clue what they're walking by? You can see the sidewalks. It's right there. You can see the parking lot. You can see the street.
Yep.
It's just a few feet from this church. It doesn't look like there's a plaque. Is there a plaque there describing what this is?
Nothing.
So people are walking by this all day long. It's certainly tall. It's not small, but they have no clue about this message to mankind that is right there off of the sidewalk.
No, but interestingly enough, in 1940, a certain guy with a funny mustache named Adolf Hitler, he paid a little visit to the town of Hendaye, France, to visit Franco for talks. And, apparently, as soon as the train pulled into the station, which is only about 3 blocks away from where the cross is, by the way, Hitler put on his famous walking shoes. As you know, he loved to walk, and walked right up the hill and visited the cross of Hendaye.
And so did Rommel, I think.
Yes, and Rommel, that's right. Very odd, isn't it?
No, it's not. Let's be frank here. No, not odd at all.
No, it isn't.
Man.
So he knew, and and it's like, wow, So how many other people know?
What's the bottom line now? Now that we've laid this out, we're going to go off in so many different directions here in a few minutes. What's the bottom line message here? If you were going to tell somebody, talk to me like I'm 4 years old, and what is this telling me? What is it?
The cross of Hendaye is telling you that once an incredibly advanced society existed that knew things that we do not know today, and is much further advanced than anything that we're ever doing, and has a science and an art that is far beyond what we have today, and that we lost that secret, we lost that society, and we need to either get back to that, and this secret society, which is still here, will help us do that, or we're going to die. And we're going to either die by killing ourselves because our society is so corrupt, because we've lost track of who we really are, or the double catastrophe is going to return. Fulcanelli is explicit in saying it will return.
It's such a fascinating thing, and for people that want to learn and are looking for something different. I mean, this is the one thing that you can get into that your friends don't know about. You can learn about it and then go and impress your friends. And I'm not saying that in a tongue-in-cheek way. It is just something that isn't discussed. Like you brought it up yourself, Giza, Greece, Rome, Peru, Chile, Argentina. These are things that, Mexico, the Mayans. But this is something that people just really don't know. But you have to go and find out about it for yourself.
Well, you do, and especially when you go to Egypt and you walk in those temples there, you're walking in something that just is beyond comprehension. The the whole entire edifice of the Great Pyramid is cannot be explained. It cannot be understood. It cannot be reproduced. We don't know what it is, what it means, what its purpose was. We don't know how it was built. We don't know why it was built. We don't know the intricacies of things that happened when it was built, for whatever reasons that they did these things, and they did it out of pure compassion to and it didn't work, by the way. That's what's sad. It didn't work. We don't know what the pyramid, we've lost the secrets of the pyramid. And I think the Cross of Hendaye is a meager attempt by this secret society to somehow keep the secrets that were once in the pyramid alive and well.
So you're saying something that I say on this show all the time, which is the Egyptians, the pharaohs, and when Upper and Lower Egypt came together, that the pyramids were already there.
Oh yeah.
They just inherited them, right?
Oh yeah. It's pretty clear. I mean, Herodotus says that the pyramids had been there for many, many, many thousands of years before the Egyptians' civilization arose. So I don't even believe that the people that lived in Egypt built them. I believe it was a group that came from somewhere else, probably the same people that built Göbekli Tepe and built it, and they built it as a monument, like I said, to ensconce the last vestiges of their great civilization, so that knowledge would not be forgotten. And
yeah. If I'm Khufu and I build that thing for me, I put my name on it.
No kidding.
I put my name on it. I spell out my name in blocks.
Yeah. Well, how about Pharaoh Menkar? He had such a bad view of himself that when he built his pyramid, he just built this tiny little thing. The third one. He didn't think much of himself, so he just built a little tiny one.
Well, they realized, when you look at the construction of the Great Pyramid, that it can't be replicated. If it could have, they would have built a few of them. And no, there's
Mark
no way.
Lerner, the Egyptologist, he tried to build a 9-foot tall pyramid.
Yes.
With manual labor. And they gave up and had to bring a crane in.
It's one of the funniest videos you can ever watch, actually.
Ever.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's start doing a couple of segues here.
All right.
First off, because this now officially will start to come into play with Hendaye, who are the Illuminati? The popular definition of the Illuminati.
Well, the Illuminati are... they're the so there was a secret society of those Masonic, very high advanced Masons, which I believe were holding all of the great secrets. And this group got infiltrated in like 1700s, something like that, 1600s. And this group of infiltrators wanted to know all the great secrets for themselves, but they weren't going to use it for the benevolence of humanity. They were going to use it for power. And the original group that was in these secret societies in Europe realized who the infiltrators were, and that they had no good intentions. And there was a break, and they split. And the new guys, the infiltrators, went after the other guys, who I believe is the benevolent secret society that built the Cross of Hendaye and Fulcanelli is part of, and tried to find them and forcing we'll call them the good guys, forcing the good guys to have to go into hiding. And they've been in hiding ever since. And so the good guys, the anti-Illuminati, they have to use kind of emissaries to do their work. They can't go out into the world because they'll get caught by the Illuminati. The Illuminati wants them because the Illuminati believes that they have the secret of immortality, the elixir of life, which they probably do. And, you have to really be careful. Let's just try to imagine for a second that there really was an elixir that allowed you to live, say, to be 300 or 400 years old, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just imagine for a second that this elixir really existed, right? Let's say that Jimmy Church had a vial of this liquid. Right?
I do, actually.
Yeah. Well, let's just say that you really did.
Okay.
Right? And you had been around now for about 150 years, and you still looked like you were 32.
Okay. Right.
So you're starting to kind of get noticed, right?
Right.
People are going, hey, wait a minute, this guy's not aging, right?
Right.
And you have to keep moving around. You'd have to start doing things. You'd have to start worrying about getting caught.
Right.
And why would you have to worry about getting? Well, because every single person in authority wants that vial.
Right.
Everybody wants that vial, in fact.
And I'm accumulating wealth because I'm not dying. I'm around for a long time, so I acquire wealth and I acquire knowledge.
And you're outsmarting everybody.
I'm outsmarting everybody, right?
You're the smartest guy in the room, for sure.
Sure.
And so, the very first warning in all the alchemy books is to don't tell anybody, right? Because they will kill you for it, right? And so, just for a second, assume that this really does exist. I actually firmly believe that there is an elixir of life that will allow you to live a lot longer. I absolutely believe it's not all that hard to believe, and I can actually explain how it works even, so that the body would not age. But anyway, that's what happened to this group. They had to go hiding because these infiltrators, these usurpers, knew that they had this and they wanted it, but not for the benevolence of humanity. They wanted it for very evil and nefarious purposes.
Of course.
Yeah, and so this group is now in hiding and been in hiding. And in fact, the Harry Potter stories are based on all of this lore that I'm telling you. The first Harry Potter movie is saying that somewhere in the middle of the mountains, somewhere in Europe, there's a castle where no one knows what goes on in this castle, and special children are looked out and sought after, and then brought to the castle where they're taught magical arts. Right? This is exactly what is going on. Which is why I believe the Harry Potter stuff resonated so well.
Steve G, by the way, Steve G just tweeted that he spoke to your wife and that you're 554 years old. I'm just letting you know. It's out. It's on Twitter right now.
Yeah, well, I don't look like I'm 32, unfortunately. I look like I'm 525. I have not discovered the elixir of life. If I ever get it, I would like to imagine that the best way, if you had the elixir of life and you wanted to get it out, all over the world, because it could actually, in my point of view, let's just say that I invented the elixir of life tomorrow, right? I somehow I had my alchemy book and I discovered it, and I released it commercially. I created a plant and I started manufacturing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say the Illuminati let me do this, which they wouldn't, but let's just say they did, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I would do, as soon as I invented it and started deciding I was going to go public with it, is give it to Brad and Jolene, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and have them start taking it, right?
Right.
And then everyone would want it, right? Okay.
Right.
Okay, right?
Right.
So what would happen if you, me, and all of a sudden, 6 billion people just woke up tomorrow morning and realized that, oh my God, I've got 450 years left to live.
You wouldn't have kids.
Well, you might have kids. That wouldn't have. But what you wouldn't do is you certainly wouldn't have any wars. I'm certainly not going to go fight in a war if I've got another 450 years to go here.
Yeah, what's the reason?
Exactly. Yeah. You're not going to pollute your water anymore because you got to be drinking that crap for the next 450 years.
So which means, you know what? I'm going to cut you off. Nobody would do anything. So there would be no more money. You wouldn't. Why would you want to work? Who cares? I've got 500 years left. And so there's no reason to go to war. So there's no war money. There's no reason for oil. There's no reason for anything. Everybody would just like go to school and hang out.
That's exactly right. It would be a paradise.
Yes.
And all the pressure, because really the stress and pressure of our life is that we know we're going to die.
That's it.
And that we have to make so much money, so I have enough money so I can retire the last 15 years of my life.
Right.
Oh my God, I'm going to die. Right? And then healthcare, the whole thing, I'm scared. And then also it cuts out the whole fear as a business model, which is what the corporations and the Pentagon and the pharmaceuticals and are using on us, right? Because suddenly the fear is gone. It's like, wait a minute, I'm not going to die. And I think this is really the one thing that the Illuminati doesn't want to ever have happen.
No, it stops the machine.
It stops the machine, exactly. And so, but I think the good guys, this is their end game. And I think that I think this is why Obama wants to censor the internet. And if you look at what the powers that be are doing, it's like they're watching our awakening, and they're trying to plug every hole they can before we're completely awake.
Who wouldn't you give the elixir of life to? Like Lady Gaga, she doesn't get it, right?
Nah, George Bush, Lady Gaga, Dick Cheney.
Wow. Yeah, right. Yeah.
There's a lot of people that don't get it.
Yeah.
Those people should actually be arrested, honestly. Yeah, they should be arrested.
Wow.
Dick Cheney should be in jail.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
Man, I saw this video the other day. I don't want to get sidetracked at all, but I saw this video of Bush Sr. talking. I hadn't seen him in a long time, and man, he doesn't look good.
No, he's going down.
Yeah. He's that's it. He's got one foot in the dirt.
Oh yeah, he lived a good life.
Yeah, he did. Well, good by his standards.
Yep.
So anyway, but yeah, he just didn't look healthy. He just, I don't know. How old is he? He's about 150. Oh, elixir of life, elixir of life, brother. Okay, so what's the formula? And did Falconelli, when we're dealing with alchemy, did Falconelli or did any other alchemist, is this formula out there somewhere?
Oh yeah. His student Eugene Cancelet, he's the guy that had the Harry Potter thing happen to him. It was in 1950s, and he received a sealed letter in the mail, just like Harry Potter does in the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it said, go to the train station in Seville, and that's in Spain. And he goes to the train station at a certain time, and don't forget that's where Harry Potter goes. He goes to a train station. And unlike Harry Potter, though, Eugene Cancelet is picked up in a limousine, blindfolded, and taken into the Pyrenees Mountains, drives around in the Pyrenees, and obviously they don't want him to know where he's going. He gets out of the car. This is Eugene Cancelet's story, by the way.
Yes.
He gets out of the car, and he's at a castle where everybody is dressed in medieval clothing, just like Harry Potter. And he's given a room, and he realizes that it's an alchemical school, and that there's all these people there that are learning alchemy. And then he meets Falconelli. And Falconelli is 30 years younger than he was when he last saw him, which was 30 years earlier.
It's such a great story.
And and I believe that, he came back, and I believe that what's-her-name, Rowling, had read this same source material as me and wrote the first Harry Potter book. I just find it, I did not read this Harry Potter books. I saw the movie, and that's when I saw it for the first time, and I picked my jaw up off the floor of the theater.
Well, the sad part about this is you could have written Harry Potter.
I could have. I'd known that it. But again, this is a true story, if you believe him, and I do. And here, it is redone by this popular writer, and the psychological impact that this has on us is, we want it. We want this world. We want to believe that there is this castle where, good children are taken and taught, arts that'll help us all out. And it appeals to this, pagan European sensibility. And I think, that's not an accident.
You're a director. You're a screenwriter. You've had a lot of success. Why isn't this movie being made now?
Which movie?
The Falconelli movie.
I don't know. They should be. They should make it. It's an incredible movie. But maybe someday it will be made. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on, and the problem with the movie business is just that it's just completely falling apart right now. So
yeah. But you're doing pretty good. Okay, let's get back to the elixir of life. Okay, so what's the formula? Can you share it with us?
Baking soda. No, I don't know. I can't tell you the actual formula, but I can tell you that that what it must do, what it does is it must, the elixir of life. What it does is I think it changes your electromagnetic body, and I can't tell you how, but what I think it does is I think that you have a field, a charge. Everybody does. All living things have an electromagnetic field. And you have electromagnetic field, and it's shaped like an egg around you. In fact, in my new movie, Last Avatar, I actually show you the light body or the etheric body, and with special effects. It's a climax of the movie. And so you have this electric body, your chakras running down your spine are the inside of this electromagnetic field. It comes down through the top of your head, comes out the base of your spine, goes all the way around your body like a donut. And and this electromagnetic body is in everything and everybody. It can be measured. And your health is decided by the coherence of the spin of that electromagnetic body. And as you fall into dis-ease, that spin consistency becomes incoherent. As you age, it becomes incoherent. As the spine starts to calcify, the spin dynamics begin to change rapidly, and then eventually the electromagnetic field is so cattywampus that it begins to collapse. And when it collapses, it unfolds on itself and you die. And so then the key to health and science and longevity people and people on the cutting edge of health know what I'm telling you is absolutely right, know that the key to health, besides a bunch of other factors, is keeping this electromagnetic body in coherence, fully charged and in coherence. So it's it's vitally important. And so they say, well, take a lot of greens and eat alkaline as much as you can. Try not to eat acidic foods and things. And this is all part of it. If you eat a lot of acidic foods and you don't eat a lot of leafy green vegetables and stuff, it causes a resistance in the line, in the electromagnetic line. And so the more and more resistance you get, the weaker and weaker the field gets, then the field begins going incoherent, and pretty soon you're sick. And, things like yoga and meditation and even walking in the woods will bring back this field. And it's vitally important. And I think the secret of the elixir of life is that it restores and revitalizes that electromagnetic field that is slowly dying in all of us.
Did Canciale himself actually describe this? And well, answer that first. Then my next question is directly back to him.
No, I don't think Canciale. See, here's the thing: Canciale got invited to this school, and then 2 weeks later he got invited out.
And now in his speaking of it and the way that he talked about it, it could have been, to me, in my research, you're the guy, but was almost in the third person. Do you think he was describing him that maybe he was Falconelli? And I'm going out on a reach here, but do you think it was himself as Falconelli? And do you understand what I'm saying?
No, here's what I think happened. I think he thought that he was being invited to the school because Fulcanelli thought that he was a great genius and he was going to become a great alchemist. That's what he thought, right?
Right.
But what was really going on is, frankly, Fulcanelli must not have thought much about him outside of him being a good emissary. And I believe it was at that point that Fulcanelli gave him the Hendaye chapter and said, go back and reprint the book and put this at the end. And I think that was what was really going on. And Cancelet thought it was one thing, but Fulcanelli had completely other intentions.
You don't think Cancelet was maybe throwing up a smoke screen because he was really Fulcanelli and he actually wrote the book? You don't think he was?
He was not Fulcanelli. No.
Okay. You feel good about that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
He doesn't have the intellectual weight to pull off a Mystery of the Cathedral.
Well, he did show up with the only copy of it, right?
He did. Yeah, he did. And he's instrumental in the story. But at the same time, where did the missing Hendaye chapter come from? And, why, and that begs the question, okay, so why did they put the Hendaye chapter in the reprint, right?
I'm going to ask you, why did they put the extra chapter in the reprint?
To call attention to itself.
Interesting.
Yeah. Obviously, Fulcanelli was getting quite worried about something and decided to blow the big one and get it out there, which was the secret info on the Cross of Hendaye, which is interesting because that came out in 1956, I believe.
That was I wanted you to lay that out, everybody, the timetable that we're talking about.
The reprint came out in 56, and still no one really examined the Cross of Hendaye until I did in 1986. So it's still kind of odd and weird that, he puts out this book and a lot of influential people read it, yet no one thought to, look into the Cross of Hendaye and try to explain it, which it's almost inexplicable. It's almost like when I first asked Robert Bivall, the guy who discovered the belt stars of Orion.
Right, over Giza.
Yeah, when I first asked him, I said, wait a minute, man, the belt stars of Orion have been in the sky for thousands of years. The Great Pyramids have been there for thousands of years. How come no one in the world has ever seen this correlation until you? And he just looked at me like, hell if I know. That's kind of why I think about the Cross of Hendaye. It's like, why didn't anybody ever take up an investigation of this thing?
Before we get to the top of the hour, I have to ask you, that begs to ask the question, then who were you approaching about the Cross of Hendaye for information?
What do you mean?
Well, you go to France, you go to the church, you're there, you're at the cross. Who do you ask information if nobody was really concerned about it? I mean, who do you turn to?
I had just books. I didn't have anyone to talk to. So I just started reading everything I could about alchemy, about French history, about sacred science, about Egypt, about anything that could help explain what all that stuff meant on that cross. And then slowly I realized that I was actually beginning to uncover a thing that was coherent, which was called sacred science.
Sure.
Which is the secret science of this previous civilization.
Were you a loner in that town? There's the crazy American guy asking about the cross.
I was. And I actually had French girls laughing at me, measuring and photographing, and they come by just giggling at me like, what is this guy doing, right?
Well, they do that anyway at Americans. So
they do. We're not well liked over there.
No, not at all.
No.
Okay. This is Fade to Black, only on the Dark Matter Radio Network, bespoke radio for the masses. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We are talking with Jay Weidner. And tonight, it's a Cross of Hendaye evening. And with that, let's change gears a little bit. This question has been up here, floated by on Twitter about 20 times now. This is from Nancy. She wants to know, is the Philosopher's Stone a symbol to a state of mind or a mastery of thought?
It is the... That's a good question. The Philosopher's Stone is an object that you have to make in order to get the elixir of life. And to make the Philosopher's Stone, it requires many, many qualities. One of the qualities is a humble attitude. Another quality is an inquisitive and curious nature. Another quality is intellectual ability to solve problems. And you'll find that the only way that the problem can be solved of what is the Philosopher's Stone and how can it be made is that it requires a certain pedigree of person, a certain kind of person, and only a certain kind of person. And that's the whole point. So, if your quest is to turn lead into gold, well, you're going to be running around chasing your tail for the rest of your life because it's never going to do that. That's a trick to get rid of the materialists so we don't have to deal with them. So if you're low-ended materialist and all you want is a bunch of gold, then you have now been sidetracked, and we don't need you bothering us anymore because we're after the real thing, which is, a spiritualized way of looking at the universe, non-material. Just what we were talking about would happen if the elixir actually got invented.
Right.
It would change. It would bring about a golden age, and that's what we want. And so, since alchemists are not living in a golden age, they seek to create a little mini golden age within their own purview. And so in the dark ages that we live in, we have to keep quiet. Whereas in the old days, they freely gave away the Philosopher's Stone. And there's legends of it, of people walking down the street and giving it to everybody. Paracelsus, the great alchemist who was probably murdered so that his stone was stolen from him, would walk into hospitals and empty them. He would walk into hospitals with hundreds of patients, and an hour later there would be no patients in the hospital. And he would walk up to every bed and say, "Please open your mouth and stick out your tongue," and then he would, sprinkle this white powder that he had in a pouch onto their tongue, and then they were up and running, and an hour later. And the doctors were furious with him because he was taking away their livelihood. And they probably murdered him, actually. So being an alchemist and pursuing the stone is a way to really get your ass killed. And I can't tell you how many people died in jail, refusing to give kings the recipe for the stone because the kings weren't allowed to have the stone. They were power-hungry crazies. The last thing that you would want is to have them have the stone.
So what's going on here? You have the Illuminati, the bad guys, on one side of the fence, and then you've referenced the good guys. And the good guys on the other side of the fence are the alchemist, or can an alchemist, the followers of Horus.
Yeah.
Can an alchemist be part of the Illuminati?
No.
No. Any of the members of Horus, they don't cross over either, correct?
No, they would never do that.
They would never do that. So they are constantly in a bright ray of sunshine, so to speak.
Well, this goes into another subject which everybody wants to talk to me about, which is the archons. And the archons were the Nag Hammadi texts, which were found in 1945 in Egypt in clay jars, or 2,000-year-old texts from the Egyptian-Israeli region of the world. And I got interested in the Nag Hammadi because I wanted to read, texts that had not been touched by anybody, had not been censored, had not been rewritten. And because, I'm getting really frustrated with modern texts because I can tell they've been messed with by popes and kings and historians. And so, everything's just spun all the time, either by Rome or by England or whoever it is. And so when the Nag Hammadi got translated, I eagerly got a copy of the translations and started reading them. And there's a chapter in the Nag Hammadi called The Hypostasis of the Archons, which you can read online, by the way. And this chapter is a warning about an extraterrestrial force which is invading the planet and taking over men. And and they're called the Archons, these parasitical spiritual parasites. And the Nag Hammadi says, they're very dangerous, and they're taking over kings, and they're taking over lords. In fact, Archon means lord or ruler. And as if this parasitical race targeted the ruling class to take them over, which is what they're really saying.
Interesting.
And I believe that that's who these infiltrators were. I believe that this secret society knew about the Archons, and it had devised ways to keep them out of their ranks. And I could go into that in some detail about how early Masonic rituals were designed to discover infiltrators. And I believe that somehow the Archons had figured out a way to get past these early tests that had been devised, and they began infiltrating into this secret society, and eventually the good guys realized that the Archons were inside the gates and that they had to abandon the whole thing.
Were the Archons physical?
They're non-physical spiritual parasites that manifest and can get into humans, and once they get into you, then it's pretty hard to get them out.
So I guess what I'm asking, were the Archons taking over somebody's body and then infiltrating? That's what I mean. Were they physical? Were they infiltrating into the Freemasons and in somebody else's body?
Yes.
Interesting.
That's exactly what it says.
Interesting.
That's exactly what it says. And the Archons, they greed after lust and depraved sex and violence, and they encourage war. And in fact, Graham Hancock, again back to him, he's writing a series of novels called the War God series right now, which is all about how the Archons are manipulating both sides in the conquest of the Americas, both Montezuma's side and Cortez's side,
right,
so that he can get maximum blood lust out of the whole thing, and that's his whole point. And it's a brilliant evocation of how the Archon system works. And I think, and here's the thing I always tell people. Well, here, I'll go to the next step, and then I'll say this.
Okay.
I believe I'm the first person, I'm not sure, but I believe I'm the first person that made the connection between Archons and psychopaths. I was reading Robert Hare's great book, Snakes in Suits. He's a doctor who specializes in psychopathic behavior, and he was describing psychopaths, and I realized, how incredibly close his description was to the Nag Hammadi's description of the Archons.
Mm.
And that got me off, this is about 4 years ago, and that got me right off on studying psychopathic behavior and psychopaths and the whole thing. And I realized that psychopaths were probably people who had been invaded by Archons.
Hitler invaded.
Yeah, they have no empathy.
Right.
They can't think of. They don't understand. People say, well, psychopaths don't have any fear, and they don't. It's not because they're fearless. It's because they don't have any emotions. They don't understand any emotions. They don't get it. They don't get any of it. They don't get love. They don't get fear. They don't get any of it. They're completely devoid of these emotions. And they have a brain that Hare shows us that their brain is different. It's a different brain than our brain. Proof that this invasion literally changes the inside of the brain and the shape of the brain. And then I started looking at the psychopaths, and they're only 3% of the population, but my God, you'd think there were 90% of the population. Their effect is so, horrible. This is why I mentioned Cheney before. I believe Cheney is an Archon. And he gets off on all this horror and war. And so I think the good guys in this Masonic group, or whatever group it was, realized that the Archons that were inside the gates, and that they had no other choice but to abandon the whole game and run for their lives. And they're still running, and the Archons are still after them, and the Archons are gaining in strength even as we speak. And I regard the Archons as the greatest danger that humanity faces right now.
What about the followers of Horus? Are they able to infiltrate that group?
No, what the followers of Horus have been forced to do is to do everything by extraneous methods. So since they can't show their face in public without getting caught, then they have to resort to other things, which is where the Harry Potter comes in. They recruit people via their dreams. This is also in my new movie, The Last Avatar, how the good guys are hiding in Mount Shasta, and they recruit people up to help the cause, the good cause, through their dreams. They find out who they are, and then they kind of open up passages for you and make things easier for you to find your way to help in the physical world battle against the Illuminati and the Archons. And and I'm one of those people that has been kind of chosen by them to lead this war. And it's a war. It's a spiritual war. And I firmly believe it beyond any shadow of doubt. And and they have, it hasn't been an easy path, but I feel their guidance. I fully admit it. I'm not going to deny it. And I believe Fulcanelli is one of them. And in fact, I know it. And I feel their guidance. I feel them doing things for me and helping me, and it gives me a great sense of hope, and I think everyone listening should have hope, because I firmly believe that this group is going to win, that they found some kind of way to overthrow these nasty guys. I'm one of these people that believes that evil starts out really, really strong and gets weaker and weaker as it goes. And good starts out really, really weak and gets stronger as it goes. And I think we're almost at that point now where we're going up in strength and they're going down in strength, where we're going to pass each other like trains in the night. And then they're going to, and I believe that the Illuminati is extremely desperate now, and that they're pulling tricks and doing things that are actually exposing them more than ever.
Did Canciale, where do, because he described his trip when he got in the limousine and where he went.
Yeah.
Are the followers of Horus, do they get together today? Do they have a secret spot where they gather?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Where? Can you tell us? Do you know?
No, I do. Here's the thing, man. I took a trip to where I think they are in 1999, and I was followed by helicopters.
Oh, do tell, Jay.
Oh, yeah. I was everywhere I went. It was in a mountainous region. There was a helicopter right above our car everywhere we went. And when we would stop the car under a tree or whatever, it would try to maneuver itself so it could see us.
Shut up.
No, I'm serious. And then I realized that, about halfway into this trip, that I was being clearly followed, obviously followed, even to the point where I thought maybe they wanted me to know that I was being followed. And that I went, well, I'm ending this trip right now. I am not going to lead anybody towards these guys. And I gave up at that point.
So who do you think was following you?
Well, for some reason,
what? Okay, wait. Ho. What country was this?
I'm not going to tell you.
Oh, Jay, come on. I was going to invite you back on the show tomorrow.
The authorities in this country, I didn't realize at the time, but I got on the internet after this incident, and I started looking it up, and I realized that at the time that anybody that was even remotely talking about alchemy in this country was being pursued by their version of the CIA. And I mean seriously.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't the United States. Okay, so
No,
we
it
got
wasn't the United States.
it wasn't the United States. So obviously it's Europe. Okay, so closer to the Mediterranean or closer to the Baltic?
I never said it was Europe.
What's that?
I never said it was Europe.
Oh man, what a great! Will you tell me off the air?
I might, yeah.
Okay.
If you promise not to tell anybody.
Okay, no,
I just
promise.
want to be the person that leads to any sort of persecution of these people who are really, really trying to help the human race.
This question comes in from Cortana. Oh, by the way, I want you to say this out loud. Say happy birthday, Cortana.
Happy birthday, Cortana.
There you go. She says, how can you tell if you're being influenced by either the followers of Horus or archons?
Oh, that's easy. Your heart will tell you. I mean, I know that sounds kind of crazy, but you will know. You will know. It will be a warm grace that will fill your soul when they come. When the archons come, it's just manipulation and cold, hard greed.
Are the archons looking for somebody in power, or could it just be anybody?
No. You have to be a special person. They're looking for weak people who maybe even are 90% asleep, and then people who are prone to anger or issues like that. A sudden, I don't know, I've had it happen to me where somebody has flipped me off on the highway when they were in the wrong, and I got so friggin' angry, I don't do this anymore, but where I literally wanted to kill him, right? That's how the archons get you, right there in that moment where you are letting something turn you into another thing. And if you keep that up, they will get in there, and then you're done. But generally, archons are looking for weak people. There was I'm trying to remember her name. Yeah. Who was Tom Cruise's first wife, the redheaded actress?
From Australia.
Yeah, Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, Nicole Kidman.
She was in a movie where she played a psychopath. Gus Van Sant directed it. She was a newswoman who had an affair with a neighbor kid.
Yeah,
and then they plotted to kill her husband.
Right.
Okay, that's actually a very interesting movie about psychopaths. But Nicole Kidman was trying to figure out how to do her role, and she couldn't figure it out. And she said to Gus Van Sant, she said, well, I don't know if I can play this role, and I still understand the character. And he said, okay, imagine that you're walking down the street, and you see this absolutely horrible car accident where a bunch of people are really, get injured horribly. Most people would walk up to that car accident and be frightened and scared or try to help, call the police, call the ambulance, right? Do something, right? He says, yeah. He said, what your character would do is walk up, look through the window at the people dying in the car, writhing in agony, and then attempt to emulate their face.
Interesting.
Yes.
Very
interesting. Because a psychopath cannot feel anything. So immediately what they do is they try to emulate what they see. And that is the archons. That's exactly what the archons do. They laugh after you laugh. They don't get the joke, but they see you laughing, so they know they have to laugh. So it looks like they're cool and one of us. And once you pick up on this behavior, by the way, and Thomas Sheridan, the great Irish writer on psychopaths, and he believes that the archons and the psychopaths are directly related to each other. He says that what's going to happen is through the internet, we're going to all start figuring out these behavior patterns, and then pretty soon they're not going to be able to hide themselves anymore.
What about guys like Richard Ramirez? Archon infiltration?
Totally, completely, yes.
So when we deal with serial killers in general, are we saying Archon infiltration?
Absolutely. I would actually say that anybody who commits cold-blooded murder has been taken over by the archons.
So
not defense murder,
No.
Defending your house. But if you're planning on killing your wife
Right.
and taking the insurance money,
Right.
you're probably an Archon.
Archons.
Yeah.
So you're saying that we're born pure then?
Yeah, we are, and we are born pure. And this disease, spiritual disease, is taken. And by the way, this is all in my movie Last Avatar. The Archons are the bad guys in the movie, and this spiritual disease has taken us over, and it's like a cancer. It almost has to go until it burns out the host. And I'm trying to stop that from happening by identifying this now. And, once you understand that Archon means ruler, then you can realize that the 1%, it gives a whole new dynamic to the whole 1%, 99%.
It sure does.
It does. And you start, I know a lot of these very wealthy people, and they're ruthless. Just ruthless. And they have no caring about us at all. And I'm not saying they're all that way. There are some that are good, but I'm saying the majority of them actually don't care about us at all, and don't actually care about anything or anyone actually. And and the society, our society is built to stigmatize non-archons and to award archonic behavior. So your corporations are, ruthless rule, right? And the one that can do the best backstabbing, stepping on everybody, they're the ones who get to the top. So there's a natural tendency in corporations for psychopaths to work their way to the top.
So it would be easy to say Idi Amin Archon, right?
Definitely.
Okay, but what about Bill Gates?
Yeah, I hate to tell you, Bill. Not only is Microsoft a crappy company, but you're an Archon.
Really? So can you be?
But not Steve Jobs.
No, that was too easy. I wasn't going to go there actually.
Yeah.
But can you be Archon-y and not Archon?
Yeah, there is a transitionary period which is very dangerous, where you begin realizing that that kind of behavior is okay. And once you start going down that path, then it's pretty much over for you. Once you start going down, it's really hard to reverse. Really hard to reverse. And the thing is that the Archons have now invaded everything: the education, science, entertainment. And what they're doing is they're fundamentally creating a situation. Remember, they hate anything spiritual. They hate love. They hate familial love. They hate love between a man and a woman. That really irritates them. They don't like love between parents and children. That really irritates them. So everything they're doing is to stop that, to stop all of that. So they're teaching us anti-love is what they're teaching us. And if you watch movies, or there isn't a whole lot of love out there. It's mostly war, killing, action, ruthless behavior, rewarded. And this is the Archons trying to change our nature. It's almost like there's a bet between the good guys and the bad guys, and the bad guys say, I can take these nice people and really pervert them. And the good force says, no, you can't. They're naturally good. And they're proving that actually they can do it. And it's up to us to consciously choose to stop them from influencing us, A, and B, any kind of archonic behavior that we are exhibiting, to stop that right away. And be honest, tell the truth, don't hurt each other, be positive. Don't let the fear machine get you down. They use fear as a business model. Don't let that. It's just BS. I'm getting to the point now where I'm not sure what is real. These guys, I'm not even sure Ebola is real. I'm not sure they're just not using that as more fear as a business model. My good friend John Rappaport tells me it's just malaria renamed. So, I think that they're just doing things now to scare us and constantly amping it up because we're waking up to them.
So I am, and you know me, I'm the glasses half full guy. I'm positive. I love life. I love my family. I love my Fade or Not family. I'm just positive guy. What are the signals that if because I'd be the perfect guy for them to try to come after? What would I notice first, and B, how would I get rid of it? And C, and this is coming in from Lisa. She just tweeted, and this is a really good point. She says, then no one has to take responsibility for what they do. The Archons made me do it. So
no, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying we give an excuse because they're Archons. I'm saying that we understand the mechanism of the Archons so we can explain the behavior pattern.
Sure. Okay.
I believe personally that the Archons should be arrested and thrown in jail. I mean, all of them, and even ones that haven't. I just, what we have to do is we have to isolate them, and we have to create systems that are the Archons created the systems that we're living under, and so we have to create alternative systems. They created the banking system. They created Hollywood. They created all these systems, and they did it to control us. And so what we need to do is wake up to all this and then get out from underneath those systems and in fact, undo those systems and get around those systems. And that's easy. We don't need to be herded into giant cities and eat poison food and GMOs. And I think once you start realizing what the Archon endgame is, GMOs and chemtrails and Roundup and Fukushima and the endless wars and why would the rulers drop depleted uranium into their own atmosphere so their own children could breathe it? None of this makes sense in any way, shape, or form until you add in the Archon factor.
Where we started to talk about this earlier, and now's probably a good time to actually let me do this first. This is Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network, bespoke radio for the masses. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We are speaking with author, filmmaker, Hermetic scholar, Jay Weidner. Jay, we started to talk about the origins of the Archons earlier, and you were saying that in the Gnostic texts, that in the Gospels, that they were saying off-world ET. Is that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, supposedly they came from Saturn, the area of Saturn.
And that's in the Gnostic Gospel?
Yep.
They actually say Saturn?
Yep.
Why do we not know about it? Why am I hearing about this now, first, on this show?
I don't know. Probably for the same reason why the religion that taught about the Archons, the Gnostic religion, was the second biggest religion on earth 2,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go and take a course in religious history at any college in this country, you won't even hear jack crap about the Gnostics. They've been wiped out of history. Every single Gnostic religion was killed and murdered and destroyed. And you have to ask yourself, well, who's doing this? And say, well, okay, these guys are saying that a group called the Archons are invading and we have to stop them, and then they all get killed. Everybody that says it gets whacked all through history. In fact, now there's only one small group of Gnostics left, and they're called the Yesudis, and they're being pursued by ISIS in Iraq.
Right. Oh, what were the odds? I love saying that on this show because we always seem to find something really cool on this show. What were the odds of those clay jars being dug up in Egypt? What were the odds of that? And would we have really known anything about the Gnostic religion if that hadn't happened? It would have just disappeared into history.
$1 million question.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If this isn't proof of the followers of Horus, I don't know what is. Okay? So the only thing that we would have ever known about the Archons is found in these clay jars right at the end of World War II. Best thing yet, though, these clay jars are not, these manuscripts and these leather manuscripts are not found by the CIA and taken and hidden, next to the Ark of the Covenant in the big warehouse somewhere.
Nope.
Fortunately, they're found by a real true scholar who's not working for one of the intel agencies, And he starts translating it, and then, of course, he alerts the Israeli authorities, and they come in. And by this time, the gig is up, and they can't do anything about it. And we actually get a true translation. And I believe that this is absolute proof that I believe that this is proof that the absolute most important knowledge that they could get to us, besides what's on the cross of Hendaye, and I don't believe it's an accident at all.
Such a fascinating story, and not only that, they actually were using some of those scrolls to light the fire so they could cook dinner.
Yes, that was probably the most important part of the Nag Hammadi.
Yeah, right.
Got burned up. Yeah, I know, it's sad, but anyway, we got enough, and we got the hypostasis of the archons, which is probably one of the most astonishing reads there is.
Now, I want to jump back really quick. Jesus, Britannia, 15 A.D. Any reference to that with Falconelli, and what is the connection also with Christianity and Falconelli and the alchemist? And well, let's start there.
Well, it's pretty clear from what I have read that early Christianity was Gnostic. It was a rebellion against the archons. I believe that Jesus, when he overturned the bankers at the temple, that was his death. He got marked for death. When he kicked the money changers out of the temple, that was it. He was kicking the archons out of the sacred temple that they had taken over. He was so outraged by what he saw. And I believe that he was in an open war against the archons, identifying them, clearly saying that they worshipped a demon god and that his was the only true God, because his God was the God of love. And he showed the way to defeat the archons was to show that no matter how many horrible acts they commit against you in their lust for violence, you must forgive them. And I believe that is the real story behind Jesus. He wasn't the Son of God. He was saying that we are all the sons and daughters of God, which is exactly the antithesis of what the archons were teaching,
sure.
Which is that you had to have a priest class and you had the special things that you had to do in order to get into God's favor, and Jesus was clearly preaching against this. Now, the Rome was the center of the archons for sure, and I believe that they saw the Gnostics who were preaching this Gnosticism from city to city as a direct threat to their empire, which it was. And so they began persecuting these early Christians, and then they hijacked the religion in 300 at the Council of Nicaea and turned it into imperial Christianity, and the rest is history. Story of Jesus is really taken out and redone. Reincarnation is taken out. So now you only have one life to live. So you better live it for the state and fight for the state, and it was changed. It was turned into an imperialistic religion.
And every Caesar, that came to power, came in clean and left pretty dirty.
Yeah, sure. And let's face it, the popes are just the Caesars, just redone.
Excuse me?
The popes are just the Caesars with new names.
Direct all email to j@falconelli.com. Oh, man. Oh, okay. That just threw me for a loop. Where was I going next?
That's what the great science fiction writer Philip K. Dick, he said that Rome never ended.
Yes.
They just switched names.
Yes. And that, exactly. This is where I was going. I'm sorry. I don't mean to get sideways here. This comes in from Nancy Nurse. She says, what are Jay's thought about Planet Nibiru in 2016?
Not much.
Okay, you don't go there?
I just don't. I don't buy it. The whole mechanics of a planet coming through the solar system like that would wreak so much havoc that I think what Nibiru is it's the mistranslation of the Sumerian story of this comet that came through and broke up. That's what I think. Because this comet was as huge as a planet. It was gigantic.
Well, one of the things that I brought up, this is, look, I haven't read this anywhere, but this is just kind of like the way my brain works. But when we look at our solar system and the debris that we have in orbit, that is, we're protected by Jupiter, through Jupiter, and certainly said that gravitational pull, could that have been Nibiru? And could it have, actually been blown apart and destroyed? And that is Nibiru.
Yeah, I don't know if that was Nibiru, but it was definitely a planet that was destroyed. What happened is, from what I understand, is I got led into a very, very wealthy man's Masonic library, and for about 4 years I could read any of his books, and I got into some pretty arcane material. And from what I was told, humans came to this solar system from the Sirius system, which is 8.7 light years away from us, and we came here on giant hollowed out asteroids. We lived on the inside, and to protect us from radiation. And we came here and we conquered 3 worlds. Whatever planet that was, some people call it Marduk, Mars, and Earth. We conquered 3 worlds, and we were all living here very happily. And then one day a war broke out between Marduk and Earth. And Earth had the superior technology and blew Marduk into 1 million pieces. That shattered Mars, blew its atmosphere away. Those people living there became refugees. Marduk had an ocean world. It was an ocean world like Earth. It had an ocean world, and all of those oceans immediately froze, turning into comets, which is where the comets come from. That circle the Oort cloud. Those all came from this exploding ocean, and every once in a while, like when I think it was about 1.5 years ago, a bunch of in Australia, a bunch of fish fell from the sky.
Mm-hmm.
They were still alive. I think that's the comet, a small comet that instantly froze when the planet blew up. It still had fish in it. And it's been floating around in space for a few 100,000 years, and finally it melted in the atmosphere of the Earth, and the fish unfroze and came alive again.
Is that yours? Is that yours?
Yeah, that's where that's me explaining claws of frogs and fishes and all those things. Is they're caught in these little comets that froze when that planet exploded.
Genius.
Oh, thank you.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
This question just came in from Renee via email. She says, Edgar Cayce, and I want you to be honest with this, okay? You ready?
Yeah.
Edgar Cayce said that in a future time of environmental destruction, that the Four Corners area would be among the safe areas in the U.S. for long-time survival. Is that why you moved to Colorado?
No, I moved to Colorado because I got a job here. But I do believe that there's some truth to that. And here's why. Because unbeknownst to most people, all under the Four Corners area of the United States are huge, gigantic tunnel systems that have been man-made. And I know people, oh, yeah, well, where's Weidner getting this? Well, there was a guy, he actually turned evidence against Richard Nixon. His name was Bob Dean?
Bob Dean, yes. Bob Dean.
Bob Dean, right. He wrote a book called Blind Justice about the travails of Watergate and how he's such a hero and everything, right?
Right. I
happened to read the book for some reason. I have no idea why I read this book. But near the end of the book, it's a thick book, he says, one of the things that we love to do in the White House at night was, stay late and drink scotch and listen to, and I'm going to forget the guy, but he was one of the people involved in Watergate. Listen to blah, blah, blah. Tell us his old CIA stories about discovering the tunnel systems that lay under Arizona and New Mexico. And this is in a legitimately published book.
Really?
And so I began kind of investigating this tunnel system, and it's there. It's there. It's all over the place. Remember the Taos hum about 10 years ago, 15 years ago? People in Taos? Well, that was them constructing and refurbishing this tunnel system. And so, I think that there's the Hopi who live in that area say that they had to go underground to get away from the catastrophe. And they stayed underground for a really long period of time, and then they came out finally and became the Hopi.
Was it the Hopi that wrote about the ant people?
Yeah, the ant people are the people that live underground.
Right.
And they come out at night, and then, the Hopi warriors have to kill them.
I can't think of, I don't know exactly when you were on the show last. Were you on the show before the discovery of the Malibu underwater base?
I think I was. It was right before that got discovered, yeah.
Okay. Do you think that the Malibu underwater base is an entrance to tunnel systems in your research?
I do. Absolutely, I do.
Interesting.
I would bet you that the U.S. Navy is using that thing there.
Well, we're going to find out. We've got a trip planned out there. We're getting really,
I would
really
love
close.
to scuba dive down there and look at that thing.
Well, that would be impossible. Yeah, when we first released the data on that, we had when we very first started talking about it, we had incorrect data on the depth. We were using all the available data that we had access to, but it turns out that the depth, we thought that the depth was about 2,000 feet, 1,600 feet to 2,000 feet to the top of the plateau, and then the roof itself is 500 feet thick. So, but now our depth data and depth charts and topography is showing us that it's about 150 feet or 50 meters underneath the surface of the water, but the thickness of the roof of the entrance is still about 500 feet, which means no scuba diving. You could barely get to, in low tide, in scuba diving, you could probably get 150 feet down. You could probably make it to the top of it.
You wouldn't be able to see anyway.
No, that would be it. Yeah, and it would be black.
Maybe we can get James Cameron to lend us that bathysphere that he built.
Yeah, he doesn't have it anymore. Well, he has it, but it's been bastardized for parts.
Oh.
Yeah, so according to his people, that thing is never going to operate again. It's completely bastardized.
Too bad.
Yeah, we reached out to him first off. I just got this email from Demian, and this is what he says. I want your reaction to this. He says, in the Philosopher's Stone, there are two ways to make one, and I'm not at liberty to elaborate on those methods. They are both blasphemous to true alchemists, and they don't necessarily prevent aging as much as allow you to body hop to a child you create.
Okay. There's several kinds of alchemy. That's one kind. That's actually the profane alchemy, what he's describing.
When he continues, he says, they are in use today by those you can imagine who have so corrupted themselves that they continue to do so out of fear of judgment in the higher dimensions upon their soul.
Well, you have a very intelligent audience. That's what the Illuminati's using. That's the alchemy that's the only alchemy they can use, is elite bodies. So, but that's profane. That's considered completely profane. I'm sure that's what caused the break when the white hats discovered that the black hats were body switching. Mm-hmm. That's when they decided that they had to end this relationship right away.
You hit the nail on the head. This audience, seriously, they make me proud.
There's actually a really good book, by the way, that talks about that body switching. It's a novel called The Red Lion. It's a really good book about that.
The Red Lion.
Yep.
Let me get this tweeted. Okay, somebody tweet The Red Lion, and I want those links to come back to me because I will eventually forget. So, The Red Lion. Okay, so What are you doing now? I wanted to take phone calls tonight. I knew this was going to end up happening. I apologize to everybody. While Jay is telling us about what he's doing now and what's in the future over the next few minutes, if one phone call comes in, I will let one lucky fade or not ask Jay a question. 323-825-5045. One call. That's it. Jay, what are you doing now? I know you're. Tell us about part 3 of Kubrick's Odyssey. Where you are in that? Let's start there, and then we'll wrap things up.
All right. So I have my new movie, The Last Avatar, which is what Shasta used to be called Shasta, but now it's called The Last Avatar. It's being released in Boulder, Colorado, on December 6th for 12 showings.
Really?
Preview. Yeah.
Really? I didn't know about this.
Yeah, I'll send you a link to it. And,
okay.
Let's see, what else? And, you know, I know my fans are going crazy about Kubrick's Odyssey 3, the third part of my trilogy on Stanley Kubrick. Unfortunately, I have a deal with my distribution company that I can't put films out right next to each other, and that the next film I have to put out is The Last Avatar. So, you know, I have to keep putting my Kubrick's Odyssey 3 on the back burner, which I know irritates everybody. But the good news is that a lot of really good information's coming in, which is going to make it even better than ever. So it's going to be killer, and you guys are just going to love it. And then I'm planning on doing another feature film right after this called The Controllers, which is about aliens and alien abduction and crypto-terrestrials, which I believe have been sharing the planet with us for the last few thousand years.
Okay, I want to get back to Kubrick's Odyssey, but let's take a question from Indianapolis. Michael, say hi to Jay Weidner.
Hello, Jay. How you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, Michael. How are you?
Doing good. I have a question. What is your opinion of what happened to Jesus during the lost years? Was he possibly in Britannia? Was he possibly in Asia? Or do you have any knowledge on it?
Well, I mean, we know that he went to India because there's a temple there that records him coming to visit with his brother Thomas. So we know he went to India, and I'm pretty sure that there is a link into Britain. From what I've seen, yeah, I think that, you know, he may have escaped up into Britain at the end there. But yeah, I definitely think there's a link between both of those places.
Now, do you think in the lost years, like 13 to 30, that, and this is just a stretch, is there a possibility he could have learned any alchemy?
Oh, I see. To me, when I read the whole New Testament story about Jesus, all I see is alchemy. I see Jesus as fire, Mary as water, the cross is the crux, which is, you know, where you cook you do your experiments. He lays in the tomb in the darkness for 3 days, and he's resurrected, exactly what they say happens to you after you drink the elixir of life. And he lives forever after that. So I think the whole story is about alchemy, actually.
Last question. Do you think
Yeah, go ahead.
In the lost years, do you think that's where he learned it?
I think he went to India and learned alchemy there, and then he went to England and created a school that would preserve that knowledge, and then he went back to fight the Archons, and they killed him.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Michael. Great phone call. But are we leaving something out here, which is southern France? And we didn't get into René Le Chateau tonight, but certainly if his boat might have landed there, don't you think?
Yeah. Well, I've been to that spot. Yeah. I think he made a slow pilgrimage up from the Mediterranean through the south of France. I think the Merovingians, the kings of France, were probably related to the bloodline of Jesus, and it was a very powerful thing that he did, and I think he deserves his place as a great hero in the war against the Archons. That's for sure.
Everybody's thanking you for coming on tonight. I'm just watching this. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Jay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. They're just busting by. And it was just an absolutely great evening. And again, I can't wait to get you back on. And as you know, whenever you want to come on and hang out, just give us a call and we'll bounce somebody. All right?
All right, man. Good talking to you.
Okay, Jay. You know, we have a lot to talk about. So as you know, so we'll chat tomorrow, brother.
Sounds good.
I'll talk to you. Thanks, Jay. Jay Weidner. Man, I'm sorry. All these calls are lined up here. You know what? I'm going to bang the first one. We got 20 calls here. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. You missed Jay, but I just wanted to pick up. You're next in line. Who's calling?
Awesome. This is Billy, the truck driver.
Hey, Billy. How are you tonight, man?
Awesome. You need Jimmy, you need to understand that alchemy is one of my favorite subjects. And one of the main questions I had for Jay Weidner was the question of how do the four elements come together to create the fifth element? Because I've got a line. I've already got a line through my work. I've given you the website before.
Yes.
I've already got a line on the four elements. I can't figure out how the four elements create the fifth element. I've got mathematical proof of the four elements. I've got it. It's binary. It's clearly binary. I can't figure out how to get from the four to the fifth. And I'm figuring that his work with alchemy would probably bridge that gap. But at any rate, you're saying you've already lost your guest.
Yeah, so. I kept him on for an extra half an hour tonight, and he's got to work tomorrow. So you know, he's a busy guy, and I was feeling more and more guilty. But when Jay comes on the show, I'm just like you. I've got a million questions. I just can't stop asking questions. Can you imagine being in my position? You just want to sit here. I don't even want him to talk. I just want to ask questions.
No, I've even bought those expensive, they're non-released books, but they're based on the alchemical stories of these people from the past, and you want to grab every bit of information that you can get from these people.
Absolutely, you do.
They're the only trace that we have.
And you're a really smart guy, Billy, and thank you for the phone call. As you know, I will forward this question to Jay, and I'll get an answer for you, and I'll have it on the show tomorrow night. How's that?
Well, that's great, but I guess I should probably correspond with him myself, because it's not enough to simply say, hey, this guy's asking about four elements into the fifth. I've got to actually speak with this person, because I've got mathematical evidence.
Okay. Well, you could
of that correlation.
Yeah, and jayweidner.com, and his email's right there, brother.
Awesome.
Hey, you have a great night and be safe.
It was an intriguing show.
Wasn't it fun?
I enjoy it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Billy. What another night down. Another night down. Thank you, Jay Weidner. I can't put enough into words. Again, I believe, and I could be wrong here, but is it Space Boy's birthday? Can somebody confirm that for me right now in Twitter? Because if it's tomorrow, is it tomorrow? I don't know. Is it Space Boy's birthday, or is it his birthday tomorrow? By the way, happy birthday, Cortana. You are the bomb. And thank you for everybody for all the great questions tonight. I'm looking up on Twitter. Yes, as of this moment, I have 1,154 notifications that I have to go back and read after the show. You know what that means. So tomorrow night, listen, tomorrow night, one of the most important things, and we're coming right on the heels of the subjects of tonight's show. Tomorrow night, Reverend Michael Carter will be here. That's right. You know who Michael Carter is? Tomorrow night, ETs and the Bible. Tomorrow night, Tuesday, ET and the Bible. He's a contactee. He's got his experiences. He's a reverend. He is a very smart guy. You've seen him on Ancient Aliens, and just a very, 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 very cool guy. I talked to him all day today. I cannot wait to get him on the show tomorrow. Really looking forward to that. And then what are we doing on, somebody help me out here. Wednesday is, Dennis Stone, America's Stonehenge. How cool is that? What a good week we've got coming up. Thank you, Jay Weidner. You are the man. Not enough time in the day when you come on the show. Thank you so much. Can't wait to get you back on for part 3. Stay tuned. Coming up next is The Unexplained. Special thanks to Keith Rowland and Art Bell. Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Kamarian. Shows produced by Hilton J. Palm and Mark D. Kovar.